Do you think we can start with intros since I guess the only people who
we'll
don't
go
have
ahead and
stuff.
start.
Yeah, the people that aren't here can just have their intro last now.
Everyone else is actually here. Everyone's here. So hello, I am Fluff. I will be your moderator for the day. My roles will include trying to make sure the conversation stays a little bit on track and just trying to make, give like, two gutter lanes for the conversation. Where I won't be talking any more than like any of those things for the rest of the panel, so I'll just go ahead and include that I don't really identify with any gender. That's pretty much it about me regarding that. So, AstonMack.
Yo, what's up? My name is AstonMack. I go with he, him, and his blackness. I am a streamer, apparently. I'm sorry, I smoked before this, so it's going to be a fun panel.
Not sharing either.
Well, listen, I mean, I smoked in Roblox, by the way. We can't smoke on Twitch. Anyways.
Oh, you can. If it's legal in your state, you can, yeah.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
The more you know. See, this is why I love my black family, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyways, my name is Aston. I'm a streamer. Check me out at AstonMack TV. I'm also the founder of the Orlando Freedom Fighters, an activist group in Orlando. Nice to meet y'all. Going to be fun.
All right, let's do Ellen DeGenerate.
Hi there. I'm Twitter shitposter turned content creator, like as of last week. I usually have just been kind of hanging around the Twitch politics community for a little while and decided I finally just wanted to get involved. That's it. Oh yeah, I go by he, him.
Awesome. IndependentThought.
Yeah, my name is Desmond Price. He, him, podcaster. Occasionally show up here on Twitch for reasons, I guess some people invite me on. It's cool. But yeah, got a podcast. It's on places where you find podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Usually hang out on Twitter and Instagram. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Car?
Hey there, everyone. My name is Car. I go by he, him pronouns. Basically, I am a black anarchist, and I do political commentary on YouTube, and occasionally I stream on Twitch and suck at video games, and I'm basically just a really deep voice. That's like my only talent. Happy to be here, though.
Respect. ParadigmShift.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I kind of just got out of bed, but low-key have been up for the last 12 hours. If you're enjoying what you're watching today, and I know you're going to, please do me a favor. Hit that like, hit the subscribe, and go follow me at twitch.tv/the_paradigm_shift. Please let Twitch know I want my username back. I hate the underscores. We're currently having our season 2 continuation of all the themes and stuff that we're talking about. I like to talk about politics. I like to talk about life issues. I like to make a poem with my chat. In the next week, I've got a surprise from them coming. And I'm going to spoil it here as my ending to my intro. We're going to make BreadTube videos together. I'm going to show you how to edit, shoot, and I'm going to show you how to shoot and edit a video from start to beginning by scripting through all the processes. I'm going to do it in one stream in under 4 hours. I can't wait for the pressure. I'm already cracking under it. I'm probably going to be on LSD while we do it. Let's have some fun.
Hell yeah.
Yo, best intro so far. No offense.
When I'm a full-grown streamer, I want to be ParadigmShift.
Well, that's adorable. All
Thank
right.
you. I appreciate that.
Last but not least, BinkPrincess.
Oh, hi. I just talk shit about people and then rants and then also I don't know. I do research streams because I'm boring and I'm a history Andy. And I go by she, her. So yeah.
Awesome. And now, Kat.
Oh wow. Hi. Hello, I'm Katarana. You can also just say cat. If your tongue's really special, you can say katarane, but I understand not everybody has that game. Yeah, I am a physicist and I do politics streams, but now I mostly do sleeping. I'm very good at that. have a PhD in it, but I'm also currently working on a cool new paper, which I will present eventually, which is about creating a metal cool device that can help you do CPR in space. Woohoo! Yeah, and in a couple weeks, all my streams will take place in European time zone because I'm getting the fuck out of here. Woo! Okay, so yeah, this stream's gonna be happier. And yeah, I'm also the host of this, and this is my Black History Month Assembly panel. Fluff, as he has said before, is our moderator, and this all just comes from the fact that I realized that white people don't naturally know things about Black people. Crazy, wow. So some things that we have within our community are things like rigid gender roles and like weird thoughts around queerness that may perhaps we as younger people don't have, but we've had to grow in like these weird rigid gender roles, and I thought it would be really good to go ahead and talk about it. Also because, you know, interracial dating fucking can suck sometimes, I thought it would be good to explain that as well. So we're gonna have a lovely conversation about all these different topics, and Fluff will take it away from here to start it off.
Wait, did you have specific topics? You didn't give me any.
It's supposed to be.
We are off to a great
No, I mean, other than the general rule, like,
Ooh,
I know last time we had 3 more specific ones.
Disconnect. Okay, okay. No.
That's your fault, not mine.
Okay, well, then it's always easy to get started on dating and talk a little bit about our experiences around that. As what does it mean to date as a Black person? How is it perhaps different? How is it the same? Etc.
So the way we'll do this is kind of like intros. Everyone's going to give like their opening thoughts. Try to keep it to like around 3 minutes max. I'm not going to go and cut you off, but you know, I want try to keep things smooth. And then everyone can just, after everyone's gotten a turn, we'll just all let you guys talk with each other and, you know, see how things go. So we'll do the same as we did before. Actually, we're going to go backwards. Let's go Bink.
Oh, we're doing me first. Okay. General opening thoughts about dating. Dating sucks. Relationships are overrated. I feel like a lot of the times people know what they don't want, but don't know what they want, which causes complications because it's like you have to do a trial and error, which sucks ass. Young people are stupid. What else? Gender roles are asked because really and truly everybody should be doing everything that's masculine and feminine when it comes to gender roles. And dating interracially sucks ass because I feel like for me personally, I'm too Black for people, which whatever that means, because I'm into history and politics. It's like, oh shit, like, oh my gosh, she's so Black. It's just so overwhelming for whatever damn reason. And people only go out with me because they think I'm cute. And it's actually aggravating because they'll be like, well, you're smart, but I don't like hearing anything that you talk about because you're too Black. And it's just like, oh, fuck me. I only can talk to Black men, but Black men be ass. So, fuck. I can't navigate because dating is ass. That's my summary.
On behalf of all Black men, can I just apologize to all of you?
Hey, I didn't say that.
Accepted.
Your apology is pending.
All right, next up is Paradigm.
This is going to be one of those topics where people will have to shut me up. So mod, clap me down if necessary. The reason why is because I grew up watching, if anybody knows, Kane Carter. So I tried to emulate his style of there it is. That's the one.
Son, no.
Okay. 2010 and up to like 2018, Kane Carter was really bad. 2019 and moving forward, like I think he's doing the right thing. But I have very strong opinions on dating. I feel like the way social media connects us gave rise to a lot of people having the ability to kind of curtail how they should engage in relationships. And when it comes especially to the Black community, there's a lot of like importance laid on more superficial qualities as opposed to emotional and inward qualities. And that is because of the rampant like, oh, I got to post on the social media. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I feel like, especially in our community, we're very much about you. And, you know, I can just say it because I'm trying to do like the streamer thing and like avoid the topic as best I can. But we like to show off the goods, you know, the goods. I got the bad bitch, you know, I got this, I got that. And there's just a layer underneath all of that I want to get to today, and that's why I really like appreciate being a part of the panel, because I feel like we are now entering the emergence of where especially Black women are finding more self-confidence, more independence within the gender roles that we are assigning as they break out of it. And that is a massive benefit, but I want to go into like the other stuff as well. But that's my like dating sucks. Yeah, it's just terrible, bro. Especially in the pandemic. You want me to catch corona and out of all the okay, I'll end it with this. I'm just saying, out of all the days that you chose for me to come over, you choose the day that my dick is the hardest, and you don't want to fuck? I can chill by myself.
Honesty. It's a virtue, I think.
My poor virgin ears.
I once again, after what Paradigm Shift said, I once again want to apologize on behalf of all Black men.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Next up is Kai.
Hey, well, you know, that's hard to top, but I want to say it looks like I'm clocking in as the oldest person here. So, you know, as someone in their mid 30s, you know, I came of age in the 90s, and unfortunately, you know, Black dating and Black romantic relationships have always been, you know, diverse and really detailed, but at the same time, the people who got the most attention media-wise and the things that we saw in pop culture were the absolute worst people imaginable. So, you know, I grew up in the time people were saying things like, oh, shawty want a thug. They don't want that nice guy. They want a thug. You know, you got to spit game, taking all agency away from whatever other romantic partner you're talking to, just saying, oh, well, if you just say this right combination of words, then you got the ass pass. They're just going to hand it to you, and then get mad if that game doesn't work. That's what I grew up in the 90s, and it was prevalent in the music, and it was prevalent in the TV shows, and it was prevalent in the Black movies and all of the Black media, because the absolute worst fucking people were the ones leading the conversation. To briefly touch on interracial dating, which is something I've done quite a bit of, I would say that in general, all dating does kind of suck in a more atomized society that we have, where we have lost the general public forum, where we're less likely to interact with people that we walk around, that we live near, that we live in the same city as. We get in our car, we go to our job, we leave our job, we come home, we stay in our house. We don't we don't sit in the bus with people, we don't talk to people on the bus. And ultimately, as someone who talks a lot about revolutionary politics and talks about restorative justice and reparations and all of those things for the Black community, I think a big part of what was lost is some of the social centers that Black communities had. And I should say secular social centers. Churches are still a strong social center, and this is why you see in many Black communities that religious institutions tend to be the last forum where people meet and date. It was shocking to me, because I took a hard turn from my religious upbringing pretty early on, but to hear my friend talk about, oh yeah, you know, that's where you go to date, bro. Go to church, man. That's where the girls is at. And I'm like, at church? He's like, yeah, at church. You got your finest on. They're looking fine. They got their nice clothes on, makeup done up. He's like, they know what they're there for. I know what I'm there for. And I'm like, but that's real. That's there you go to date. That's where you find the person that repairs your car. That's where you find the people to come over for your yard sale, for your bake sale. And we lost a lot of the secular forums that maybe would have supported something like that, because unfortunately, up until recently, a lot of Black churches may not have been the most hospitable place for people who were genderqueer or people who had queer sexual preferences, you know? So ultimately, my thoughts is that if we can get a much more two pronged. We get the right people out in the forefront, being the voice of what it means to be in Black romance and Black dating and dating in general. Because I do believe ultimately we should just be seeking good connections with humans. The level of melanin, I'm on the darker end myself, so no shade to the high yellow brothers and the light skinned brothers here, but in my toxic past, more than enough times I caught a sucker attack or two, catching feelings, losing ladies to the light skinned brothers, and took it out with my fists on a few occasions. So I've grown past that, and I think we get the right people up in the forefront, and then we also try to restore that human connection that our communities should have as a whole. Hopefully that didn't take too long. That's all I got for our introduction.
All right, and then we'll go Independent Thought, and then we'll go last second edition EndlessCemetery. You'll go after Independent Thought, and you'll do an introduction to yourself as well as like what everyone's opening thoughts, what they're doing. So go ahead, Independent.
Yeah, so dating's been a challenge for me over the years. I actually moved out to Montana at the age of like 15 from Philadelphia. So I had like a huge culture shock coming out here. So I didn't really do a whole lot of dating before the age of 15. So all my dating has been in this very, very white space. I think I've only seen maybe, and this is like no bullshit, I think I've probably seen maybe less than 100 Black women like seen with my own eyes in this state since I've lived here. So it's been a very interesting time over the years, like dating people in this environment. Thankfully, I've come across people who I've dated who having conversations about race hasn't been as challenging as I thought it would be. It was actually pretty simple. So that was pretty thankful for me on my part. But dating is, I'm just one of those things where it just feels like no matter how good the relationship is, there's always some levels of complications to it. Usually it falls down to communication and compromise, but that's just, again, that's different for everybody. I think over the years, the one thing I've learned more than anything was, I think something that the first panelist was saying was trying to figure out not only what you don't like, but figuring out what you like. That's a huge fucking challenge, but definitely have gotten a little bit closer to knowing exactly what that has been over the last like few years. So I'm pretty thankful for where I'm at right now.
Awesome. All right, next we'll do EndlessCemetery.
All right. So I feel like I don't really have a whole lot more to add. I feel like KAR said a lot of really, really cool stuff that I'd agree with. Like a lot of other people in the panel. I feel like getting into the conversation about like secular spaces, I feel like specifically the raising of children itself, like raising children was like a communal effort, and a lot of the colonial ideas that we have are where the idea of like the nuclear family and cis heteronormativity and that type of stuff comes from, and I feel like that's not really examined as much. And that like kind of dovetails with how Bink earlier said that like Black men be trash sometimes, and I feel like a lot of those men are men that have not really addressed their internalized, their colonization, to quote France Fanon on the issue. But yeah, interracial dating can be tricky. I am from Baltimore County, where was a majority of white people where I grew up. I didn't really date any other Black people growing up. Dating girls and like the "you can't meet my dad" or "my dad can't know we're together" type of thing was very common for a pretty long time. Of something I accepted for longer than I am proud to admit. And yeah, that's just tossing that stuff out there really quick. I'm sure we'll get deeper into other stuff. I don't want to take up too much time.
Awesome. All right, let's go next. Ellen Degenerate.
Oh, hey. Okay.
sorry.
I thought I was gonna go to Mac
You're good.
next. Yeah. So, I'm kind of in a spot that no matter who I date, it's interracial. So that's kind of a thing that I kind of deal with. It's not really. that bad. I'm in a city. I grew up half between city and suburb, and I will say it's a lot different in the suburb. I dealt with the same thing that Cemetery was just talking about, like the I can't meet your dad, but honestly, like that kind of just made it better. It's like, oh cool. Glad to know that I'm pissing off your dad. That's kind of what I wanted to do. The whole concept of just like I noticed one thing in the suburb versus the city is that people in the city are more familiar with what mixed people look like. When I'm in the suburbs, people have more questions about what I am, and that ambiguity and not knowing what a mixed person looks like, I think contributes to like their ideas of how I look. Because they're not seeing a mixed person. They're seeing they're like, oh, that weird that white dude has really weird features.
All right, and last but not least, AstonMack.
You are on mute. You are
on mute.
Muted.
Boom! I am an old man. I suck at this, man. Clearly, technology and me. Speaking of the two things that aren't married, I could talk about my dating life if you'd like. So here's the thing. We talked in the last panel about like, how the world kind of challenges our blackness all the time. And this is really important because I'm going to get to that, but I also want to bring up, and let me just openly state, the reason why I apologize for all black men is because I grew up as a misogynist. It's just, there's no way getting around it. I grew up in a conservative area that probably reinforced it, but even if I didn't, I probably would have grown up pretty patriarchal. And that's just programming from society, right? So I do want to go ahead and give that space to say, like, that's why we say silly things. But the problem is when we talk about misogyny and patriarchy, we're often talking about, as we should be, the issues that surround women, right? Because it's a lot about our treatment of women and our marginalization and creation of a second class of women, but there are also negative externalities associated for men. And one of those negative externalities is we tie our self-worth to our ability to date. And what were we talking about that last panel? What did I bring up in the beginning? Oh yeah, our blackness. That's right. So if I'm in an all-white space, because we're talking about spaces and where I am and where I am not allowed, and especially through the K through 12 period when you're in school, like, you just don't, sometimes I don't get to hang out in circles of black people. In fact, I didn't because I wasn't gifted. And so my dating pool, contact theory, you're going to date the people that are around you, was very limited for people of my same race. And that causes so many different things that fuck with you mentally. Like, you start thinking like, man, like how many of my friends before I would go up to a girl would say, you think she dates black guys? How many times do I have to hear is like, oh, is she down for the swirl, as if this is some sort of badge, and then just because she is the person that happened to date a black guy, now all black guys have it was this whole weird game of like who belongs with who and why they belong together. And it was really, really gross, and it was really disgusting, and it felt bad, and a lot of it was, and like I said, the misogyny part of me, I'm afraid, sorry to admit, or I'm ashamed to say, made it so it tied a lot to my self-worth. I got over that, but I found out this. A lot of that anger that I had about being put in boxes because I was black came out in understanding I'm never getting my 40 acres and a mule. It's never going to happen. All right? So I'm going to take what I can, and that means your daughter.
We're coming for
might mean your wife.
We're gonna get them.
It just and I don't want to be exclusive. I happen to be a cis hetero man, but boy, trust me, I might go the other way if I can bang a racist dad. Like, there's something about taking that from them that was so important for me, and I have been the black guy that is exactly like Endless said, like, oh, I can't bring you home to my dad. Yeah, I snuck around. My first major girlfriend, like, I snuck around for years. Her dad actually said that she was ruining white society because he saw us at the movie theater. So and he was going to shoot me with a shotgun. I listen, vividly remember all of these things, and I can tell you there's so many dynamics, by the way, that we can go into when we talk about the interracial aspect of it too. But then that comes back to when I got to college and suddenly I was surrounded by people that look like me, and I could vibe with them. It's odd because then you have to reestablish your blackness, and what does that mean in a relationship with another black person? And that's so weird sometimes because a lot of us that are in those white bubbles get this feeling of imposter syndrome when we're trying to be ourselves and just be okay with our blackness, and that's a huge thing. There's so many things that we can go in here, and I could be talking forever, but I think I hit what I wanted to hit, and you guys got your sound bite. So let's just open it up, like, because I think there's a lot. I think all of us can talk about the microaggressions of interracial dating. Let's be real.
Nah, let's go deeper than that.
So
Let's
wait,
go
actually, when I said last but not least, I made a mistake. Katarana exists.
It's her bad.
Hello.
So, please, Kat.
Yeah, my experience is mostly like from an interracial lens because of what I decided to go to school for. I think it was probably colloquially known as the whitest subject in the world. So I just really didn't have all that many opportunities to date other people in my race due to my like what my interests were and stuff. But yeah, I've had I don't know, for some reason I always like would exclude myself from like different types of black-centric microaggressions in university, except for when it came to dating. That was like the one time when I was like, yeah, in the eyes of most people, I still be a nigga to them because I was like dating, an Indian guy for like 2 years, and he was like, this is cool and all, you're really great, like, it's not going anywhere. And I was like, but everything's fine. He's like, yeah, but you're not Indian, so like, whatever. I'm like, yeah, but like, you wanted me to move to Toronto, right? And he's like, yeah, not in my house though, because my parents can't meet you. I'm like, but like, and I was always like continuously trying to like get extra titles so that I could like be like, maybe this would be good enough. Like, I became president of my university, not good enough. President of the like Rocket Club, not good enough. And I'm like, what would it take to be good enough? He'd be like, you could become prime minister. And I'm like, okay. And like, that's like, nothing I could do would ever make me worthy of meeting this person's parents. And yeah, like, I guess from an interracial dating point, it's just like, sometimes it's like, even if you're okay, society's not okay. There have been times where like I've been like just hanging out with like a white male friend, and people in the streets like, yeah, I see you with your white man. I'm like, this is my friend, but also like, what? And it's just, yeah, it can get really like way downing. And a lot of times I can forget, but then, I come to the internet and then people like to say a lot of things about me because they're like, I see you're dating someone that's white. Even before I was dating someone that wasn't black, I was on a panel and like somebody called me a race traitor for like an hour. And like, it was just, yeah, it gets really like tiresome. So interracial dating is like this entire landscape, and I'm not sure why there's so much discourse about it when it's literally just like, fuck what you want. But yeah, here we are. So let's get started. Who would like to start?
Me, I want to start.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Bink.
Go.
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to touch on that, like hop on that. So basically, oh shit, I sound so annoying. I had like when you guys stream up, oh my god, I sound like a little kid at some age. Okay, so I feel some type of way when it comes to dating because I feel like, and I've said this before, I look like a little kid. Like, I don't look my age, and it aggravates me. Because I feel like, you know how social media pose what men are supposed to be, especially for my age, even though they're not my age. We're not gonna talk about that. But people my age, there's like based off social media, men are supposed to look grown, like you're supposed to have the chisel, jawline, and all those other things, right? And I kind of feel some type of way because it's like, for me personally, yeah, I'm attracted to, maturity, because that's kind of, how I am. I'm more mature, quote unquote, than like people at school, right? So it's just like I look like a little kid, but the person who I want to go out with looks like a grown adult, and I'm an adult legally. So it's like this really sus energy going on, and then on top of that, for me personally, a lot of my dating experience has been interracial. I live in a predominantly Black community in the suburbs, and I feel like I'll date whoever. I really don't care, but people of other races tend to gravitate towards me for whatever reason. And when it comes on to, and I've said this before, when it comes on to like how I view myself and come on to pretty and like light skin, that it's like people within my own community don't even bat an eye to me. But then it also goes into like me having to triple think if this person who's of another race is actually into me, or they're actually just they're in love with the idea of me, or like the caricature of what I'm supposed to be. Because for me, when it comes to my Blackness, and I really love fashion. So when it comes on to that, my advocacy for myself is the way I dress, the way I strut down the street, the way I love, platform heels, like the way I have the long acrylics and don't give a fuck. That's the way I advocate for myself when it comes on to the day to day. So I feel like because that is, so popularized when it comes on to media, people aren't really even in love with me. They're in love with the caricature of what I'm supposed to be like. Like I can't be, in the aesthetics of, being urban and what people like to call it, whatever the case may be, and be articulate. That's not what's acceptable. I can't be, based in like philosophy and, intellectual with my behavior. I have to be dumb. I have to be, talking in ebonics and all this other stuff. So like for me, it's a thing of like, how am I supposed to navigate in this space when it feels like I have to constantly be on a battle if I should even be with somebody or not?
Well,
because I have to.
Even if you were to come off the way that, people expect, it's still not enough. It's really like, you could literally be, I don't know, the most, white passing Black person in the entire world, and people are still gonna like ask you really fucking stupid questions about things.
Yep.
Like I was dating a Russian guy for a while, and like, I've always been exactly like this. And at some point I was like, oh, do you mind my cousin comes over? He's like, is your cousin named Ray Ray? And I was like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like, he was like, is your cousin's name Daquan? I'm like, I'm Haitian. Why the fuck would my cousin's name be Daquan? Like, who are you talking to? Like, my name's
Katarana.
Why the fuck would you think that my like family member's name would be Daquan? And even if it was, why are you asking me this question? That's so weird. Like, and like he would ask me about like what was it like being on government cheese, and I'm like, I'm Haitian. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about right now. Like, there's like.
Tell me you left after that question, though.
Nope, I stayed in for a year and it sucked.
Should have been running out the door after the motherfucker dropped the Daquan.
Yeah,
right.
Like your keys.
That was auto buff activated.
Are you just like
Daquan.
you had like a Bond villain kink, like a Russian dude?
Yeah, he was petting a naked cat. It was great.
Can I say what I
before we get going? I've had so much worse, but go ahead, Aston.
No, I was gonna say what I'm hearing from both people. By the way, I just kind of want to like articulate it, which is just, yo, Black people and people of color spend so much time because of the white hierarchy making everybody else feel comfortable that they've come to expect that when they have intimate relationships with us, that we are those characters that we play to make them comfortable, that we actually are those little stereotypes. Like that's what I'm seriously hearing, and that's honestly something that I feel like when it's weird. Like as soon as you become comfortable, they're like, okay, let me drop all the anti-racism that I was doing before. Let me just be me, because apparently the only reason why I was not saying wildly racist shit to you or have wildly racist questions was simply because I wanted to appear nice in front of her. But now that we're intimate, I can just let it rip, right? I really wanted to say this stuff before. Like, they just really want to say stuff, and it's so weird.
Can I interject that that's not just a white thing? I've had that. Like, I had a neighbor. Basically, everybody thinks I'm something. Like, they think I'm one thing, and then I end up being another. Also another thing. Like, I remember I used to live in this apartment complex, and there was this really nice black lady that would sit outside, and I would talk to her sometimes when I get off work. And I remember I'm also Hispanic, by the way. And she was like, this neighborhood was really. I had a lot shorter hair back then. She was like, this neighborhood was really good until all these Mexicans moved in. And I was like, I'm standing right here. And then she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, baby. I thought you were half black." And I was like, "You're the first person to think that, but that's so weird to see." Like, and then when I've like dated black women, there are weird questions about Latino stuff. And it's just, I think people just have these questions, and there's never an appropriate time to ask, so they like wait till they have some kind of trust in order to, because it's like a way of being vulnerable. Like,
Right.
look, I'm very dumb about this, and I need to ask some dumb questions. It's like every dude when you like got close to a girl for the first time or something, like really close, and you just had like a question because you have no frame of reference and you're not going to go look it up on Wikipedia.
I agree, but I also disagree, because I kind of feel like sometimes people like, okay, let me say this. I feel like people are shitty, so like this may come up wrong, but I feel like sometimes people just like know what they're doing. Like I was messing around with like this white boy, and then all of it, we're just chilling,
First
and, like,
mistake.
and we're just chilling, we're just talking or whatever, and then he's gonna go, "Dang, I wish just black people just go, like, just get over slavery. Like, y'all use it about everything." And I'm like, who you're talking to, right? And then he literally used pro-slavery arguments, talking about, well,
Yikes.
black people in America have it better than literally a lot of people like in Africa and stuff when slavery happened. So like literally congressional like slavery arguments. So I feel like sometimes people like know they're wrong, but they just want to dig their grave and just like lay it and then
I feel
expect you to
that.
go in there with you. I just really feel like that. But that's just
Oh, you left after that, right?
yes, of
That was the
course.
last thing you
Well,
talked
actually,
Already smarter than me.
Toxic feminism, real quick. I made him spend $200 on me first, and then
Hey,
That sounds like reparations.
check this.
honestly.
That's restorative justice.
Yeah.
What'd you
I
say on
do
the-
believe in reparations.
Car might get this one. Have you ever had like
But
women
yeah.
try to touch your hair, ask you weirdo shit about your locks?
Literally
Yes.
every-
Okay,
sorry.
so that transitions to a bigger, broader point. I went through extremes in how I moved through society and socialized. I'm 6'6". I weigh 350 pounds. So I'm
You sound like the
not
cops don't like you.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm sure you move very
I'm-
delicately through life.
I am all of the scary black man, and then you add booming voice, thick facial hair, former college football player. So
You are the fetish.
I am the bull, and at the same time, I am the subject of the feared for his life. So I emptied my magazine, right? And that was instilled in me by my parents. It's just that they were very strict and disciplinarian, because they're like, the world is not going to tolerate you acting out in any way. Cops execute brothers that act like that. So you have to walk the straight and narrow. You have to sound like you walk the straight and narrow. Talking like this is not by accident. I literally took broadcasting and vocal classes in high school and majored in communications. They wanted me to be a news anchor, the most friendly, unthreatening, massive
okay.
black man I could be. And so that's how it started. And then, I lacked a lot of social intelligence, so I just got really mean and bitter and aggressive, and so that's the other extreme.
Yep.
Where I just hated everyone because I'm like, fuck it, I owe nobody anything, and I'll die alone before I kneel to put up with these people and what their expectations are. And I started to soften over time and realize, well, I don't need to take that out on everybody. And even some of the issues I got from the Black community, with being told that I talk proper or my lack of usage of AAVE. Yeah. I carried a lot of that with me for a long time, and I'm like, no, listen, there's context to where this comes from. People hear it and they might be thinking that you're putting up a barrier of your Blackness compared to theirs. And so, don't take that out on Black women when you talk to them. And then, actually getting in a relationship, being in a committed relationship, you realize, oh, fuck, I can act how I want because someone loves me exactly the way I am. So I'm just full asshole now. I swing my Black cock around full frontal. I'm just like, no, I am brash, rude. I throw my weight around. So I make people put up with my massive Blackness. And yes, to answer your question in a very roundabout way, multiple people have asked to touch my hair. A few people have touched my fucking hair without asking. I used to work at a casino. I was a security manager.
I'm sorry.
And it was in an old, white, affluent part of town. So all of the guests were old, white, affluent people.
Has anyone asked you if you put poop in your dreadlocks? Because I got
that hasn't come up. I would verbally slay somebody if they asked me that.
The thing is too with it, like with
I just
touching our
hair.
hair.
I didn't touch him.
The touching our white people, because it is, by the way, this is like I never really got people of color trying to run their hands through my hair. But isn't it weird how they associate how attractive they think they are to how much they think they can touch your hair? Like, she thinks she's really cute though, so she's like, I'm like, I will literally be saying the words like, I hate when people put their hands in my hair, and then she'll be like, oh, but you like it when I do it, right? Like, what the fuck?
Well, so I'm standing there.
I'm sorry, real quick.
Go ahead.
I have a rule where if I catch somebody not talking enough, I force them to talk. Independent Thought, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
so deep.
I've definitely had quite a few people try to like touch my hair over the years. This shit always pisses me off. I mean, I don't know, man. I think some people just have too much of an audacity complex. They just think that they can just like touch you whenever they want to touch you. They can kind of say things to you the way they want to say things to you.
Audacity of the caucasity.
I mean, the thing that gets me the most though is just the I guess the blatant, like, I guess, ignorance that you would think, like, there's certain things that you would just assume that everyone would know not to do, and that sometimes just always just happens to happen anyway. Certain conversations people shouldn't be having around you, or I think I had one time where I had a girl who was interested in me, who got me like a present, and the present was like a stuffed animal, and it was a monkey. And she, like, unironically was just like, oh, it reminded me of you.
No.
Yeah. And she was dead serious, and she thought she was being cute.
Tone deaf.
Yeah.
We were rooting for you.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, so I've had some of these experiences out here in good old Montana. So
okay, you can go next, Endless.
It's been fun.
I was gonna say, firstly, that off what we were just talking about, I feel like it is less an
okay, so Car, I just want to touch on your point real quick about
streamer moment.
Bink, I don't know if you heard Endless was in the middle of a conversation.
Oh, really? Hold on.
Yeah. I've been over him the whole time.
What is happening?
I'll go real quick and then you can go, Bink, because I know I like listening.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I couldn't.
No, you're good. You're good.
What a generous lover.
It's not it's not so much like an audacity thing. Because I was watching, I forget who I was watching that was talking about this white girl that they knew that was post left now, where to a lot of these people, their ideas of like leftism and let me truncate it even more. They do not consider you human, right? Their niceness to you is performance for other white people, right? That they think they will be judged by, because those are the people that can actually impact their lives negatively, right? So when they get you in a private space, that is like that's the self-report, right? Because they're telling you this whole time, like, it's not that I have the audacity. I think that I'm allowed now to ask you these things because you are my partner or whatever. It's more so the fact that now that we're away from the crowd and I can just deny any accusations that you have about me, I'm going to ask you all this out of pocket shit and then play it off like, because I am the normal, the quote unquote normal, like default person in society, and you exist on the fringes, then it doesn't really fucking matter how you think or how you feel. And off of that, I was gonna say something else and completely forgot because I was going in on that. So yeah, sorry.
I just want to say that that's colorblind, though. I do want to say that I
Yeah.
do think
Oh,
that
yeah.
that happens across all groups of people
Absolutely.
do this,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's performative.
Because black people are on the bottom of the totem pole. You know what I mean?
What did you want to say, Kat?
Oh, I just had like a nom flashback because I've been sitting here and I realized that the last time I dated someone that was of the same race as me was when I was 18, and I'm about to be 24, and I haven't met a single person's parents since then. So I've been in university. I was in university for 5 years. It's been a year after. I haven't met a single person's parents. No one has no one has ever
Sorry.
introduced me to their family as their girlfriend. Or if I met them, they're like, "This is my friend." I've never been introduced to anyone's family as
That's so
their
rough.
partner.
All right. Well,
Red flag.
that's me there.
That's funny. That's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm also hearing, or I realize that like experiences for black people are very different, especially on what side of the country you're on in America. Like if you divide the United States up in 4 quadrants, it's the Northeast, blah blah blah. And I'm just realizing that like the dynamics of people to people, like daily lives, are much different. And what's bothering me is that there are still common threads that are all negative. Like they're all negative. I mean, obviously, we're here to discuss things, so we're not going to go into the but this really great thing happened, and now I'm happy forever. But like the parent thing, because my dad has a strict rule on like if you bring somebody over to the house, they got to come meet me. And sometimes I'd be a little bit embarrassed because my dad has his own issues or whatever, blah blah blah. But like, the women I've dated have also said no guy has ever been like so nonchalant to just introduce me to their parents. And it's just like, is that not a normal thing? Is that not what we're supposed to do when you come in the crib? Because then I thought, even in the situation that I'm like currently in, like, I don't think I've met anybody's parents after my first relationship. And that's why I said it's funny you mentioned that, because like, yeah, also same. And now that we've gone into these deep ends, it's like now I'm also thinking the first relationship I was in was with a girl who was white passing but was black and Puerto Rican. I don't know if anybody sees where I'm pointing. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because in that relationship, I was doing the thing that Ender was doing. I had to sneak around. And then it goes back to what Endless said about performance. And like, I wasn't black enough, or I wasn't white passing enough with my actions to appease her parents, even though they were like black.
Ooh, I remember my second point. Go for it.
Yeah.
I figured that's
that made me think of it. That made me think of it.
Yeah. Okay, so I was right in where my head was going.
What I was
But you can
saying
go.
was,
Yeah,
like,
go ahead.
because it was what Carl was talking about with like you're simultaneously the object of desire because you're more or less like the pinnacle of manliness. You know what I mean? If you're got a larger frame, facial hair, deeper like baritone voice, dark skin, because dark skin is criminalized in this country. So there's that element of danger, all that stuff. And it
He's
took
talking
me-
about penises, guys. Guys, don't. He's talking about penises. I'm just gonna say it. We're talking about penises.
Nice.
There's dicks too.
Blacks.com.
I was getting there. You got
We're getting to
the
the dicks.
BBCs.
Don't
You know
worry.
what I mean?
We're getting
I got
there.
you.
BBC,
I got you, bro.
Not
I got
the
you.
news station.
I got you.
The other BBC, and not Barbecue and Chili from Dead by Daylight. The other BBC. But it took me a while to realize that the fetishization and the hatred and the fear come from the same place. That like
Yeah.
what makes you sexually desirable, because it's always exclusively sexual, like we've all been saying. None of us have met anybody's parents, and for the men here, when we did meet somebody's parents, or when it was floated, hey, how come I haven't met your parents yet, it was the interest in the interest of our safety that we were never introduced to people's parents, right? So it took me a very long time, and I fell into the Eldritch Cleaver. You know what I'm saying? What Aston was talking about, where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna smash as many white joints as I can. You know what I'm saying? And that's gonna be my revenge on society. And
It's all branches off of fetishization and dehumanization is what it
Right.
is. They
Even-
essentialize you and they exotify you and things like that. But I think Kat had their hand up. I don't like to jump. in people.
Sorry, go for it.
Well, I guess the same type of thing applies, but like for women as well. But it's kind of not as much. No one's scared. No, it's not for my safety. No one's gonna shoot me. But like, you know, when I'm traveling, like I spent like 2 months in Europe, and like guys would be like, "Oh my God, you're so exotic," and I'm like, I'm fucking black. Like I'm not really that special. Like I didn't. Okay, but like you know,
Literally.
during like university, during traveling, people would be like, "You're hot. You're hot. You're hot. You're hot." I'd smash. You're hot. But then, you know, when like you start dating them, everything might be going well.
Nobody
but
wants
it's
to wife you though. That's
no,
crazy.
yeah. Like, and that's the thing that's really weird, because I realize that like there's a certain thing, like for some like races of men, it's like they don't really get dates, but if they get dates, like no, like they'll bring them over to the parents, no problem. Like they have more of a hard time getting in the door, but once you're in the door, like then yeah, you can come over. And for me, it's like I can easily get in the door, like, but like you're not passing that door, like you're not gonna sit down and eat with us, like you're not gonna talk to us. It's very strange, because I guess like I hate to like sit there and like, you know, total up our points, but at the end of the day, a lot of times I'm like, dude, I'm better than all of you. Like what the fuck? Like you should be like, Mom, please, like meet her. She can add like a motherfucker. Like look at this, 1, 2, 3, she gets it.
The
like
most recent, like the straw that broke the camel's back.
I'm actually
for
gonna
me-
force Bink to talk real quick.
Oh,
if
sorry,
that's
sorry,
okay,
sorry.
unless
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say this because like it hits me the same way too. Like I've said this before, that I feel like I'm too black for people. Like when it comes onto hair, for an example, right? The whole idea of like touching somebody's hair. I've said my hair is plentiful when my hair is in the afro. My hair looks like a wig. People always ask me, "Oh my gosh, Bink, is that a wig? Where did you get that from? Where did you get that from?" And I'm like, and then I pull my hair back because you know it's like a round one. Pull my hair on like a scalp. This is not a wig. And then they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, like it feels like how do I say this?
It's patronizing.
It feels like it's not even that it's patronizing. It feels like not only are you not able to cross that threshold, they don't care if you do or not. And that's my issue. I don't like when people like want to cry wolf when they're the one who's the wolf. Like, why are you out here clowning women? Why are you out here clowning men when you're literally out here like wilding when it comes on to your dating life? Like for me personally, I find myself a surprise. I'm out here confident in everything when I be on Twitch, because ain't nobody finna play me like that. But it feels like because, you know, it's either you feeling you have to be like the popular girl at school, because as I said, I'm still in high school, so you have to be the popular girl at school that get around, or you the quiet one and they prey on you. Because that's what happened to me. I feel like a lot of dating practices when it comes on to men are predatory. And I feel like it's predatory to the point where it's like people don't want to realize it's predatory, because if you were to come out and be like, yeah, I'm trying to like, you know, get some, it's like, oh my gosh, that's such a turn off. But it's like, be realistic with what you want, when it comes
Yeah,
on
be
to your
upfront.
interaction, right? Like you like I've explained to this when it comes on to people at school, and I've talked to this before, where it's like what you're gonna tell me is that you think I'm pretty, right? You think I'm intelligent enough, right? I can't be athletic because that's too manly. And then what also you're gonna do is tell me that instead of you be like, yeah, shawty, I'm trying to hit, what you gonna tell me, you're gonna talk to me for like 3 or 4 months where I'm comfortable with you, date me for a year, smash me, and then sit there and talk about, well, this wouldn't happen to me now. But you're gonna smash me and then be like, well, I gotta go because I never really liked you in the first place. Like, I actually, and this is the thing, I know I'm bringing a lot of personal anecdotes, but like, it happens so commonly at my school to the point where it's
For
aggravating.
the record, this is a personal panel. You should talk about your personal
Yeah, I was
experience.
gonna say I'm gonna throw a
Actually,
story out after you after Aston speaks. Go for it.
I think the thing about dating personally that's so wild to me is that people act like people do not talk. Like, I'm sorry, if girls don't want to go out with you, there's a reason why. That's because words go around. Everybody talk about it. Everybody, their mama, grandma, auntie talk about it. Everybody and their cousins in other countries talk about it. Everybody know. Okay?
They're gonna ruin your
Because-
whole career.
No, because literally what happened is that I had boys in my neighborhood, and it was like they're the little clique, they know each other for a long time, and I used to hang around with one of them. And when you hang around with the boys, they be telling all these secrets, they be talking about women the way they want to talk about women. And what happened is that we were on the bus,
Locker
and
room
we have
talk.
this girl. We have this girl in my school, and she's girl with the fashion, so everybody like her. She's sweet and all of that. And what happened is that my next door neighbor was talking about her in like a very hypersexualized like manner, like, oh well, because the slim thick energy, like Doja Cat energy. That's the body type, right? So they're like, oh my gosh, I want to go smash and X, Y, and Z. And I'm like sitting here like, oh shit, he's actually in this girl's DMs. And I literally went over to my friend. I was like, look, listen, this man is not interested in you. He just wants to smash. And I've heard this conversation how many times? And I wish people were more open about it. Because I feel like it has to be such a like undercover thing where it's like, if you're only in that clique, then and it's like, no, everybody in their mama needs to know. Everybody around the school needs to know. And I know that's bad because like dating, how, you don't want to isolate people and make people feel, to themselves. But at the same exact time, if you're being predatory and you're literally like just trying to use women for their bodies, I feel like that should be known. And the last thing for me when it comes on to my story, and I won't go into detail about it. We actually like the person that when it happened to me, their friend group got exposed online and everybody was in denial, and then it got quote unquote debunked and everybody went around with the rest of their life. Like nothing happened. None of the teachers had an assembly, none of no shit, and literally people were like abused. So like I need people to like step their game up and like actually realize like this shit is serious, because it's not just, oh, we're dating, because people associate dating with sex, and that needs to be addressed because that's a toxic correlation people are trying to make. And it just causes people to not only have bad experiences with dating, but for people to be preyed upon, because that's what people do. You prey on the innocent, you prey on the weak, prey with people who have something going on. And I think that's just, I don't know, that's just me ranting, but regardless, that's...
Can I ask a question real quick?
Go ahead, Aston. Oh, go ahead, Alan. I want to. I
was
can't see the
gonna-
other one talking much.
Yeah, I was gonna let Aston go, and then I was gonna.
Okay, so me then?
We'll go Ellen, then Ender,
Okay.
then
Oh,
Endless.
sorry.
That'd
I
be
thought you said
last.
me.
Alright.
Sorry.
Is it like...
Yeah.
I'm just trying to like parse out terms here. Like, is it like, say I see somebody and I think they're hot and I go up to them and like talk to them like at a bar, but like, is that because I went up to them because they're hot, is that considered predatory?
No, why would
No,
it?
Okay, I just was like,
the predatory nature is basically like, in my eyes, I feel like you taught, and this is what I mean by like it's being predatory. I feel like you're grooming somebody in order to have sex with them for a whole period of time, when it feels like instead of you being upfront that you want to have sex, you're basically putting it out there like, I want to maybe have a relationship with you. Like you're constantly texting me, you're giving me grown at night texts, like you're putting it out there like, hey yo, maybe a relationship is possible. You're tempting that person, and then when they get the bait and they're comfortable with you, you sleep with them so they,
It's insidious
what?
intent. you're pulling up because if you pull you, or at least in your mind you think, if I pull up and say, yo, I'm just trying to smash, or you're trying to, what's up with some casual, they're probably going to say no, right? So you got to pretend that you're legitimately interested in them and lead them on for months, sometimes even years, while you juggle all these girls that you're just trying to smash or whatever.
It's too much work for me.
So yeah. Well, I think that what we have here is we got to remember that these problems are really intersectional, and I really think it's super interesting hearing a younger perspective, hearing different gendered perspectives, and obviously different sexual orientation perspectives between all of us. I think I think what I hear when I hear BP is I hear a sad, true and real introduction to the patriarchy. Welcome to it. It's like the secret game that we play, and all of us guys know it. Let's be honest, we all know what I'm talking about. The games that we play in order to sleep with women,
Spitting game.
Yeah, not just spitting game, but the whole I tell this story. I told this story the other day on my
pickup artistry is part of it for sure.
Yeah, but I talked about it the other day on my stream. I think you were there, BP, when I was saying that I recognized it when I was one day. My friend brought a Tinder date out to the beach.
Yeah.
And I was there with he brought a friend that was this is when I realized what was going on. It was like my wake up, like my Matrix moment, when she got super trashed at the beach, was a sloppy girl. She was all over the place. And his friend said, "Oh, I think Mike's going to get it." And I'm like, yeah, that's why she accepted his Tinder date. That's why I think that she's here. That's why people do that. So I think she does have intents of doing that. Yes. He goes, "No, man, you know what I mean, right now on the beach." And I'm like, are you trying to suggest that because she's intoxicated that we should engage in sexual activity? It was just this Matrix moment where you just realize, holy shit. And everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody knows about the behaviors that we're engaging in, and that
the idea of weakening somebody's not talking to them when they can make their best decisions.
Yeah, we're trying to
get
well, what it is I always say the patriarchy, and this is one of the ways it's there are tons of negative externalities to this, but the reality is guys treat everything like a video game. We think everything's a game that we're playing, that we're engaging with in order to have some sort of outcome from, and it shows up with our relationships with others. That's why we have incredibly hard times making friends outside of our core initial group that we happen to grow up with. That's why we have trouble forming emotional relationships. That's why a lot of guys take a lot of relationships really hard, because they actually don't have a support system, because we're so gamified that we think that sharing hurt or things that may have affected us will be a tool used against us later to lower to our detriment in the game of life. And that's unfortunate. And that's what I'm hearing a lot when I hear BP. I wanted to actually... Oh, go ahead. What did you want to say?
I was going to say it's kind of that, but it's also I don't know if Carl knows. Carl might back me up on this. I heard him say he was a black anarchist, but in Africa, we had matriarchal societies. And
Absolutely.
So I feel like that was what you're describing is not incorrect, but a lot of that comes from colonialism. Well, yeah, but colonial patriarchy. So when the Europeans came, they would literally define themselves by what they owned, including women, so on and so forth. And if you don't own anything, you are not anything. Literally, that is capitalism, essentially. So you are what you own.
Yeah, this is what we're describing right now. I have a guest that frequents my show. His name's Logan Spence. He's a doctoral candidate for getting he's a rhetoric. He studies rhetoric, and it's a concept called the big other, which is this idea that there's this other out there that we're all trying to shape ourselves to. It's like this idea in our head, and it always works in opposites, by the way. The other is never defined. but it's always telling you what you can't do in a situation. Oftentimes, the best example is like, imagine two people that are and this lady is having an affair, and she has to she has to say goodbye to this man that she's been having an affair with, but they're at a public train station, so everything she can't say is because of the big other. And that's what we're describing here. It's like a lot of these negative like these things that we can't do and feelings that we can't behave. But neither here nor there. I wanted to actually that was a really weird tangent, but I really wanted to actually talk about the sometimes though, when we're talking about not bringing people home, I got a weird relationship with my parents, man. I don't bring anybody home. Like, that's just a thing. And I think there are a lot of people that are like that. And I think there are a lot of men that are very much like that as well in our society.
I can agree with that. I mean,
real quick.
Oh,
go ahead,
yeah,
Car.
go ahead.
Car, finish what you're saying,
just-
and then I'm going to force Paradigm to talk.
Quick agreement with him there. You know, well, first of all, I'm you know, I'm in my 30s and my mother's in their 80s, so I don't necessarily, and I'm in a committed relationship for the last 10 years. But you know, even then, after I moved out at the age of 19, and after that point, I had a very strong shift away from my parents. And now they were old fashioned. I had old parents. Anybody I knew, they had to approve of. Period.
Same.
Right. And so, but after I moved out, I'm just like, well, they told me you're moving out. You're taking responsibility for yourself. You're your own person. You're paying your own way. You're dealing with your own shit. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I don't need your approval for shit then. This is my life. So yeah, no, it's, I moved 2,000 miles across the country for the partner I have now, who I met online. So, and this was sight unseen for my parents. They had not met her. And whatever, it was my life. And that's what my dad said when he helped me pack up the car. He said, you know, it's your life, your decisions.
So we're like secret brothers, because I moved across the country for my interracial relationship too, man.
Ken. I had more I wanted to add because Endless, and I'm not going to. I'm just saying, if we can get back to it, Endless raised a point about colonial patriarchy and the differences that we saw pre-colonial on the African continent, because that's like a big thing for me.
I've been following you,
Go ahead,
Car.
moderator.
I'm a fan of you, Car. I've been watching you for a minute. I want to hear you preach. I want to hear you.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
There you go. Here we go.
But I think Fluff wanted someone else to weigh in before I go off on another.
Are you cool, Paradigm?
Yeah. I'm good. Okay, cool. I tried. You know what? I'll be honest with y'all, because you know we need more honesty in the Black community. I tried to launch Minecraft, and Discord was like, no. Like, I'm just not even gonna fucking lie. Like, I don't know what just happened here. So I'm gonna go on not a tangent. It's gonna connect everyone's points at once. And if you haven't met me before, I can do this. And if you have met me before, get ready.
Let's go. Let's fucking go.
So what?
I've seen him do it.
Oh, thank you. So what I'm realizing is that, and don't take this the wrong way to anybody who shared their personal experiences, because it's going to sound off in the beginning, but it's going to come back to where it should. I kind of see where my nice guy phase came from. I kind of get that there's this really...
I can't wait to get into this. Go ahead.
No, you good. I see where I felt validated in being just the bare minimum, if not better, than what society had expected me to be like in a relationship. And especially as because I know you're older than me, but like my dad's an old soul. He grew me up on the old shit. So like I learned about, I could even be like funny, but not serious, but funny. And say I learned my relationships from like All in the Family, Amen, a couple other shows like Married with Children, like that dynamic of like the
good times.
Yeah, exactly. Matter of fact, that
Black
even
love, trademark.
And I can see where certain, and see that's just so weird, because for for young white males, I feel like the objectivity towards dating is very, we're all, you know, well off, we're all in the same community, like, come on, let's just go to the ball together. But for like black males, there's this expectation that you gotta present a certain way, especially in the parent context, and like that might stop women from approaching that situation with the engagement of, I really like him, but my parents won't like him for X, Y, and Z reasons, so let me not. And then she starts falling into the pattern of like, well, I gotta look for the best suitor that will also be the best person for my family to accept. And it's like, I used to have this, and that's why I brought up the Kane Carter thing in the beginning. I used to have this knowledge, or at least I thought I had this knowledge, that I feel like obviousness should be the most key thing in a relationship. Like, if I like you, I'm not gonna beat around the bush with it. I'm gonna tell you, like, this is my real feelings. Like, you could do whatever you please. You don't gotta return the favor, nothing. Like, just be straightforward. The straightforwardness in dating, especially for minorities, has so many other layers stacked upon it. Can I go out with this person? Is he too big for me? Are people gonna think like he's a thug? There's so many. And then like the presentation of the perfect man to your parents. Does he make money? Does he got a good job? And it's like, haha, systemic racism. I don't have health care. Like, I look this way because they ain't covering my leg surgery. I got a wooden plank. Like, you're asking me to be something, and I just can't be that because of a myriad of reasons that I think you should already know. But then we pretend and this is where I start rapping at everyone's points. I already did it, but then we pretend that we are something different because that's the only way we can move forward if I want to move forward. So and I only speak about this because that's what I am. For black men, a lot of the moving forward gets gated with these, I have to provide, I have to be strong, I can't like this, I can't do that, because you're thinking about all those layers and all those things you have to check off your list if you go and wife up, which then with the idea of media and music and all that and TV makes us feel like, okay, well, they want the rough rider outside, but they want the sweet darling inside, and you cannot expect, especially in this day and age, a man to be able to exist within both those, because it comes out like rage, it comes out like anger, it comes out like, and I'll end my thought here, it comes out like my first girlfriend, like as I said, very white passing, and her family was just like, he does these little idiosyncrasies that we don't like. And it's like, but I have a great job. I like have the bunch of accolades. I have all this and that. I took a piece of shrimp off your daughter's plate. I'm sorry. Like, I thought that was funny. But apparently my level of comedy is too, yeah. But to get back more on point, that was funny to me because it also got re-echoed in society. Me and her were having a conversation, and she liked to cry at everything. She would cry at happy stuff, sad stuff. I remember one time she couldn't get a can open, and she just bawled on the floor in the middle of school for like 5 minutes. Like, she'd cry, like, cool, like, whatever, she was cute. I liked her. She had it up here. And anyway, we were...
Hey, bring it home.
Yeah, we were having this conversation, and she started crying about it because she realized she was wrong. And I don't like being accused of things, especially like when the thing is there, because I have to disprove by existence, if you understand what I mean by that. That's a small relationship thing. I'm sure y'all know what that's about. And the security guard came over to me, and he was like, oh, I've seen black people like you. You like to abuse women. And my teacher's sitting over there, and like everybody who I kind of knew was like over in the other corner of the Costco, and everybody's like, this man has literally made his high school, every art project has been about his like his deceased mom. Like, he's never treated a woman right. If anything, like, he's a little too soft. So I'm sitting there and he's grabbing me, throwing me on the floor, and I'm like, yo, you about to like, because he had a piece on him, you about to like cap me because my girl crying over something like minuscule? And he was just yelling at me like, you that type that like to rape women, you that type that like that. And I'm sitting here like, and I swear to, and this is where I'm going to end it, I swear to everything in my soul verbatim, this is what I said and the tone I said it. How can that be, sir? And I was like, I immediately lost, and that's where all the points get wrapped together. I immediately lost my blackness when pressed on a situation based on my appearance. How do I live in that duality where you treat me as one thing when what's coming out of my mouth is the other? Oh, I gotta be a little bit more lighter for this conversation. My bad. That the conversation between me and the security guard, not this one. Sorry.
Conformity is safety.
Yep.
So
We're gonna put a pin in that, and I'm coming back to that later. I know that he's about to go off,
we
but I got
definitely-
stories.
We definitely, yeah.
what I'd like to
wanted to
do
throw in with
is
that too,
I want to
sorry.
make it's okay. I want to make Cat talk, and then Independent's gonna go after, and then yeah, feel free to keep going if you have the stories. If you want to keep talking about like experiences where you've had to deal with, you know.
I was just gonna say,
one thing I was really interested, real quick. I think Bink gave a really interesting story, like on topic about like being fetishized, and I'm wondering if any of you guys, I know there's something like you guys talked about a little bit, but kind of like drifted because we have so many different things. I was also curious about that, but first I want to hear Katarana and Independent.
I was just gonna throw out really quick before we do that, because you guys are the only two like women on the panel. I feel like this is about to get dominated with like black masculinity, like talk.
Yeah, no, I can
that's
see
what,
that. Yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
was gonna say. Like, I want to talk about black femininity after, if that's okay. So it's like
Sure.
after.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was gonna talk I guess a bit more about masculinity, but kind of like the conflicts I have with it. So, like I guess part of my anecdote is that like yeah, I haven't dated anyone that was a black person for quite a few years, but a lot of that I think has to do with like some of the more rigid gender roles, specifically because while I moved from Haiti to a city that was more than 50% of the black population is still Haitian. And I think the really like strict gender roles that we have within Haitian society just wasn't really something I could continue to like exist within. Partially like some of the things, like one of the things that would be a really big point of contention for me and the person that was my ex-fiance, because I was engaged at 17 like a fucking idiot. It was like the
sorry.
fact that I was queer. He was just like always uncomfortable whenever because I'm a lot of the like types of queer that you can forget that I am until suddenly something happens, and then you're like, oh fuck, I forgot that you like women, and then it would like cause him to have like a catastrophe every time like something would happen that would remind him that like I like women. So like a friend of mine had a crush on me and like asked him like, hey, I just want to know, like, I don't know if you were comfortable, but like I want to see if like Kat would like to like go out for lunch at some point, and he like freaked out. He like didn't want to talk to me for like a week because he was like having like a whole fucking thing about it. And then, you know, a lot of the other types of gender roles in which we always have to like make sure that the man is the provider. Like, yes, I have to make more money than you, and it's like, yeah, you're not gonna make more money than me. I'm sorry, you're just not. Like, unless you're like really special, unless you're built different, but you're not, so you're not. And like a lot of the things would always come up as like, oh, like I'm supposed to be the one paying, and like having to have those types of conversations about like how the date should go. You need to pull my chair, you need to pay. All these different like things would always come up, and it just ended up being a little bit too much for me until eventually I found out that like one of the very big coming of age things that my cousin ended up telling me about was a lot of higher society Haitian men, since, you know, the girls aren't putting out in high school. It's like, okay, dude, you're 16, we're going to a brothel, and everybody would like get their rocks off at the brothel like every week. And I'm like, that's just, I'm not comfortable with that being like a very integrated part of like your coming of age. It's just not really something I feel like spending years breaking down just how to show you that like it's not just a pump and dump excursion. Like that's, I'm not your sex ed teacher. I have no interest in doing that. So as a result, like I just kind of had to like pivot, and like most of the people I have dated ever since are like other like queer men, or very like queer accepting men. I'm very scared of girls. They make me sweat. So I've never dated a woman, but like a lot of those different things, like I guess just kind of the you know, I have to be a provider, I have to be strong, I can't be emotional, and those things like are, I think, just way too rigid within like our society. And I forget about it, you know, until like now I'm back at my house and my mom's like, you need to put on a dress. I'm like, why? She's like, you're a woman. I'm like, not really. Also, can you not say that? And like I realized, okay, like these types of things are what prevent me from being like super, you know, like running to Pokemon, running to the polls to like fucking you know, date another like person in which I'm gonna have to do all of that other types of teaching. I feel like it's a lot easier for me to teach someone about like the history of my hair than it is for me to deconstruct somebody's masculinity and like try to explain to them that like I'm just not like what they think I should be. So I guess it's kind of unfortunate because I know a lot of people are like, oh, black is beautiful. And I agree. Like, I think black is beautiful. I just find it very tiring to explain things such as trans woman or woman. Or I find it very tiring to explain that, like, I'm non-binary. No, I'm not non-binary in the way that you see on TV. I'm non-binary in the way I feel like being non-binary. And, like, it's just a lot. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of rope that into there because I know like a lot of times it can come off as like, damn, Kat just loves the white man. It's like, no, but people that like grow up more within like a like I guess Western society, I guess because queerness has been something that has been accepted into their like I guess their household for longer, like being gay is okay has been accepted for longer, so moving on to the next step of also like not like presenting in the way that TV tells you to or like the magazines tell you to, whereas I'm still trying to fight within my own household for my mom like to just understand what being bisexual is, so I don't expect like I'm not going to bring up non-binariness at any time soon, and I also recognize that's the same for a lot of other people's households.
Love, I was right. That's all I'm gonna say. I was right. I had it. I had it on point. Oh, you might not have saw it. Oh, damn. Then I just said that in the middle of this conversation. Oh God. One of the topics that we were listed was about queerness, and I had said the great transition that we could have into that topic would be recognizing that all of this seems to be very surface level, like us in heterosexual relationships. What happens when you have to present a whole different type of relationship to the outside world, and then how do you combine the acceptance of like black people and trans people? How do you accept two black gay men? Like how do you begin to have that conversation when you haven't even like been able to understand your role in just the normalest of societal's expectations for relationships? But I just took fluff sticks, so sorry.
Want to know? Wait, weird question, and I'm gonna vibe check here. I don't know if the rest of you guys feel this way, and that's why I'm like anecdotally checking. But it feels to me like, and maybe this is because the LGBTQ community is part of counterculture, that it's more common for me to see interracial couples within LGBTQ type relationships, like than outside. Whereas if it's two I'm like if it's two black people, I'm less likely to see an LGBTQ relationship. But if it's a black and a white person, I'm more likely to. Does that make sense? Does anybody else see that? Or is that completely
there's a lot of historical precedent for this, which I want to let our female contributor on the panel, our non-cis het contributors weigh in on that.
Yeah, so in my experience, all of my like being able to be openly non-cis het has always been an interracial. Like any times I tried to become more open, like at least with my like Haitian fiance, he was like, whoa, 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 we're going to church. Like that was always like, yeah.
The Book of Job.
I think for me, you will see more lesbians anything within the black community, well where I'm at, or it's accepted, more so like masculine lesbians, like at my school, like it's just a whole thing. There's masculine lesbians are accepted more than feminine gay men or people who are trying to transition. That's looked down upon, which is don't even get me started.
Well, that's all just
But
like a male
Yeah, I
gaze
was gonna
thing,
say.
right? Because like a lot of it comes from like a guy sees two women and he's like, "Oh, dude."
no, it's not
But
even
like,
it's not even that. It's like you know the whole like tomboy thing,
You
like
talking about studs?
Well,
yeah,
no,
like that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's accepted. Everything else
I
isn't.
I also feel, and maybe I'm overstepping here, but I also feel like that a lot of that comes from the fact that it's a rebellion against the traditional gender roles, and I feel
Yeah.
like, yeah, you know what I'm saying. So that's why I feel like you're gonna get that kind of outcome.
Well,
But I could be wrong. It's just like an
Well,
There's
I
intersectional
agree with that.
thing, you
There's
know.
Yeah.
also like a patriarchal aspect to it too, because like I can see a dad being way more cooler with having a lesbian daughter than a gay son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
for sure. I was
True.
about to get into that. Just
That
speaking
gun
from
of
personal
patriarchy.
experience, like, I for the longest, like, it was a thing. I think 1 year before I even was like super open and out about my stuff, just like as a joke, I think I had like my fingernails and toenails painted. I like went home to see my family 1 year, and it was like a thing. Like the matriarch of the family like pointed it out. You know what I mean? My dad like pulled me aside, asked me about it. Multiple people pulled me aside and asked me about it, to the point where I was like, it's literally like fucking acrylic on my nails, on the
You just
parts
tell
of my
them
body that are
off.
dead but still attached to me. You know what I mean? Like it was such a weird ass thing, and it gets into to loop it back around. I feel like it gets into, there's the patriarchal aspect of it, yes, but it's like the misogynistic aspect of it, because it's femininity is seen as synonymous with weakness, right? With the whole buck breaking thing, like it gets into the advanced hotepery that I like to talk about, the phrase I coined, and with what Kat was talking about, where like, because black men get like fucking colonized, right? And they idealize themselves as just like somehow slightly deficient white men, right? Because they can never reach the ideal of being a white man, being like a Jeff Bezos or like someone like that. So, but the way that they interact with all of their surroundings are what they perceive to be ways in which men who are all their own category demonstrate power, right? So they beat the shit out of everything around them, beat the shit out of their kids, beat the shit out of their wives, right? And anything remotely feminine is completely separate from masculinity. That's why we deny the existence of trans women, right? No problem with studs, because studs aren't necessarily a threat in the way that we, to use the term colloquially, or in the way that we see them. They don't challenge the gender norm in the same way. They're not as transgressive. And plus there, it also plays into like gender ideals and like gender norms about who can pass and who can't. Like generally it's easier for a woman to pass as a man than vice versa, just because of what we've perceived social cues of a man to be. But yeah, like it's really fucking weird. And there's, I feel like there's a lot of internal conflict, because I feel like more men have questions about their sexuality or their gender, and it festers and goes one way or the other. They either go like DL and they're like fucking around and shit, or they got to be super, fucking Kevin Samuels and shit about it. And
Those are the facts right there.
I just wanted to say
Those are the
like
facts.
like I just stand Ender, but basically like just like when it comes on to like religion, and how when it comes on to like back in the day, like the whole 400 years ago, that's what we clinged upon. That's what we clinged upon. When it comes on to like feminine masculinity, these like European based structures, that's what we had to cling on to. This is what we had to cling on to, not only just to find happiness with one another, but really have hope. You hope to strive towards being equal to the white man, and what that means to be a man. Like you strive to be elegant like a white woman, like in those time periods. Like even like the whole I forgot what it's called, but there was a whole movement, dare I say, organization, that was, I think, of Black women maybe been mixed, but it was basically trying to counter like the Jezebel stereotype. Like literally, there that whole entire thing of trying to conform to white femininity in order to try to strive for being respectable. And that's why I kind of really wanted to touch on like femininity, like masculinities, because these stuff has been placed deliberately and trying to learn how to navigate within those spaces, not only so you can find self-love within yourself, but also be okay with navigating in, you know, the spaces, period. Like for me, as I said, like I define my rebellion by the way I dress and everything. I like the hyper femininity. I like the, you know, 40 inches hair. I like the acrylics. I like all of those things. I like being very hyper feminine, but when it what comes with that is all of these negative repercussions just for wanting to be yourself. I think another thing that comes with it is that Black women have been masculinized. So it's the thing of just to bring up, because my paper, do
Wait, do you
my
mean
little- my little
perceived
paper.
as more masculine, or like in the way that people say that like the Black man's being feminized?
No, like historically speaking, Black women were masculinized. Like Black women were seen, they're not only less feminine, but they are like, how do I say this? They're like, how do I say this? They're put in the spot in which stereotypically men were put during the time period, and they were only basically a woman when it came into the sheets. That's basically what it's like. When it came on to slave work, women were still put in the fields. Women were still doing back-breaking labor while pregnant. Like all of these things were still happening. The only way you were quote unquote a woman, if was you were sexually
Just for
assaulted,
breeding.
and you were for breeding. That's it. So like it's that, and then on
My
top
grandmother
of that,
picked cotton from sun up to sundown. The only way she wouldn't have to do that is if she was literally too physically ill to work. I'm sorry. Just want to throw
right.
that out there.
So like for me, it's like I'm trying to navigate when it comes on to my femininity, because I don't want to be seen as, quote unquote aggressive, or quote unquote like too ghetto and when I just talk. And it aggravates me because I've actually like went online and try to like, okay, how do I describe what being a woman is, or like femininity? Because for me, my parents, my mom, my grandma are very old school, so they tie it with having a kid, but I don't want to have a kid. So I'm over here looking online, like, what do I define this as? And it was like Black femininity YouTubers, and it was like literally conform. That's what it was. You have to, oh my gosh, hello, my name is Bink. How are you? I like to do X, Y, and Z. Like I had to change the way I dress, change the way I talk, literally change every aspect of myself in order to be quote unquote Black femininity when it came onto these YouTubers. And it's just like I feel like there's a it's constricting, and it's it's restricting to the point where it's unbearable, and I just don't know like how to describe like even having a solution to begin with.
But I think
So what I'd like to do is I'm gonna you can talk right after Kat. I'd like to do is I would really like to see like more things like what EndlessCemetery is doing. Like if you have a question about the story somebody's saying, ask. Like please feel free. Let's turn this into a conversation rather than everyone like doing. I don't want you guys to feel like you all have to just sit there and listen completely.
Okay, so I hate to cut you off, but I think what's happening, and this is my specialty for anybody who's never met me before, is I always look for the underlying context of everything, because everything has an underlying context until you get to the root of it. That we are all born from the ego, and we will die within the ego. Very philosophical. I think what's happening is that the panel is heavily males, like there's more of us than them,
Yeah.
So the dynamic is becoming where we want the space to not feel constricted with all the ideas, because I think rarely do we ever get a chance to really personally express things about this. When it came to our last panel, I feel like we had more quicker examples, less we could analyze things from a conversational spectrum. This is like, I need to hear this because that's just what needs to happen. I need to hear that. And
Right.
especially for Bink, like Bink don't talk a lot. So when Bink get going, we let Bink talk. We let Bink rip,
Actually, the better
that's
thing would be saying, like, I really like what Ellen did, where if he had a question like about what they were saying, like Bink was saying, and he asked, and that furthered the conversation, and Bink was able to further what she was talking about. So I kind of was more about that kind of thing, like where. Like if you want it to be a learning experience, it can be a learning. I'm happy. I'm happy that it can be a learning experience. I just want to make sure everyone. I want to encourage the rest of you guys to participate as well, and don't be afraid to ask a question if it comes up.
I did want to add like one more thing. They were talking about how
you do that, and then after that will be Kat.
Oh, sorry. I think the one thing that was kind of missing, we talked about Black women being out in the fields, or unless they were in the sheets. And beyond that, beyond child making, also child rearing, because in the South it was very common for literal like Ku Klux Klan member white people to have literally sucked on the tit of a Black woman growing up and stuff like that.
Literally.
Domestic workers were almost exclusively Black in the American South.
So that's I've read a lot of books about how that choice broke off a lot of white people away from it, because you get raised by somebody, it's a lot harder to dehumanize the person that raised you as opposed to somebody that didn't.
Yeah, and I'm a big politics nut, so I like to always look at the historical context behind everything, because I think once we recognize what contributed to where we are now, I think then that's when we can make the progress, because we can identify the root of the problem. The issue that you run into, a lot of the things that were mentioned when you talk about these stratified gender roles, when you talk about these really firm restrictions we're placing on people, when you talk about the masculization of Black women, and at the same time you talk about the emasculization of Black men in pop culture and media and things like that, a lot of this all comes back to colonialism. This is something that was, I don't even want to say inherited by the Black community, it was more forced on them at sword point and gun point. So what you have is a group of people, right, who had their cultures ripped from them, who had their language ripped from them, who had their religion ripped from them. You have generations who don't know what gods their ancestors worship, don't know what tongue their ancestors spoke in, don't know what cultural practices they had. All they had were fragments to cobble together, fragments that date back to the mother continent that they could cobble together into communities. So post-Civil War, when people are free from chattel bondage, they did what they knew, which was an amalgamation of the American colonial setting and some of the cultural notes that they had acquired being in bondage and being a diaspora. And a lot of that was first and foremost heavy on Christianity. The Black population in America are the single highest group of churchgoers in the country, more than white people, more than Asian people, more than Hispanic people. Black people are the most reliable churchgoers in the country, and a large part that is due to the southern United States. So
also because Black church is just fun.
Black church slaps, and I'm an atheist. I grew up with Black Southern Baptist Church, but
Black Southern
Church slaps. It's wild.
It has its issues, don't get me wrong, with transphobia and so on and so forth, like homophobia and such, but like in terms of like cultural, well, not just that, but like cultural production, like not just we as Black people, but like to a certain degree the entire fucking world owes a lot of the art that it enjoys to the American Black church.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It all came from there. So like when you take that Black church as that was the community center, because that was all they had. And even not to reference too many movies, but I think, pop culture can be a useful reference at times. You look at, say, the movie Harriet. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but, she was a slave. She lived among other slaves. And even then, on her plantation, there was a church with a black minister. He was probably the only black man in that county taught how to read because he had to preach the word. And now he himself was barely a free man either, but that church was a communal place, and those churches were their communal place when they were free. So they had to carry with them that colonial Christianity once they became a free people. And unfortunately, that did not leave a lot of room for flexibility on gender roles that they may have had back on the African continent. It did not leave a lot of room for flexibility in gender expression or sexuality or sexual preference, because again, they were broken down and reconstructed under a puritanical structure that was, here in North America. What I think we're seeing now, which is a good thing, is I think we are seeing the dying breath of that old mindset. You see, I don't like to invoke too many tragic individuals, but you see someone like Tariq Nasheed release an absolutely garbage film, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so this is somebody who's seeing society progress and seeing the black community progress, and he doesn't know what to do. He's panicking. He's a cornered animal. And
I
so
think Tariq
he has
Nasheed
no
is
place
just
in
I want to
afraid
let
to take his
he
delicious.
will be
Kat's been waiting
obsolete.
for a while. I think to
Go ahead, take it,
Kat,
Kat.
what you wanted to say.
No, I just wanted to actually say something to what you were saying, because I think it's I don't want to say reductive, but I think a little limited just to say that this is something that it's unique to African Americans, because the reality is the colonial hierarchies that come from the heteronormal. If I could speak today, you understand what I'm trying to say. Yes, that's actually an infection of religion,
The
which
Latino population got that too.
yeah,
Specific
which
puritanical European religion.
exactly. Which again, the religions we're talking about are the white religions, and those have tendrils that reach across the entire planet, not just here. You get it in Latin America, you get it in South America, you get it in Africa, you even get it in Asia with those marauding Christians. I believe it's in Indonesia right now that are slaughtering women. Like,
oh yeah, Christian missionaries made it to Asia too.
and it always, but the thing is it's also kind of hard to, sometimes it's hard to parse these things, because we say that it's that it comes from the white supremacy, but at the same time we also see this pattern with religions across the world in general as well, not just the white ones. If we go to India and we check Modi's Hindu nationalism, is very fundamentalist, is very women are put in their place, patriarchal style. Obviously, traditional Hinduism has a caste system. So, I mean...
Well, yeah, and so that's a great example, because that's that's less an exception and more of another example that proves where I'm coming from, because in the Indian subcontinent, Hinduism is that old guard. It is that 6,000-year-old belief system that carries with it that ugly caste system, that carries with it that ugly seeing humans as property aspect. And so now that you have, when reactionary people in India took power, the first thing that they're going to do is revert to that older, more established religion that allows them to enforce those hierarchical power structures. Whereas, and not to say that all of the Islamic practitioners are the ones who are the most progressive, but right now what they're doing is they're clashing with their large Islamic population as well as their large Christian population, and all their populations are large. There's 1 billion people in the country.
Kat.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt,
Yeah,
but
Kat.
yeah, so
Interrupt me anytime.
Okay, perfect. Will do. Okay, so I guess that's one thing that I always, lament about is okay, so in Indian culture, even though they have still their rigidness, there is still at least the existence of extra genders that are accepted, such as Hebraism is something that exists within India, so at least there's something outside of our binary system that people can identify with, whereas I suppose I think religion at least in Haiti, Catholicism was our religion that we used to be able to establish hegemony, and was able to be used to kind of beat out the old religion, even though we still have the reminiscence of voodooism that's been able to stay around. But there's, I don't know why there's such a emphasis on this with colonialism, but basically what sticks around once colonization ends, or at least within the form that we think of, is like, don't be gay, men do this thing, women do this thing. And it always, I guess, makes it really hard for people that have an interest in trying to preserve you know, like, if I want to sit there and still love my culture, that's good and all, but I also recognize that, like, I wouldn't be accepted there. So then, like, who do I get to be? Because, you know, I was talking a little bit, like, about my nonprofit with my mom, and my mom was like, oh, why haven't you expanded to Jamaica? Or, like, why don't you go to Jamaica to go, like, do some of your work there? I'm like, to do what? Get stoned? Like, what am I? Ooh, wow, riveting. Can't wait. And yeah, like it's always a bit of a fight, even like within Caribbean like parents, if you're straight passing, to try to make them remember that, like, just because you're passing doesn't mean you are. So then, like, for the 85th time in my life, I had to remind, like, I'm not straight. She's like, oh, you're gay now? I'm like, you've known this since I was 10. Like, what are we doing here? And as a result of, like, just, I guess, keeping up some of those values of what they've all learned back and as growing up, I remember when I was like 10 years old, I was on like what was it, IMVU, because I was a little like bored queer kid with no friends, and I was like doing
That's where it was at.
yeah, and I was like, my mom like walked in, she saw me like straddling a girl in my IMVU, fucking computer was slow as shit, got my ass beat, fucking got beat, got fucking beat. Pray the day away.
I wanted to say that on that topic that we're talking about, though, about how traditional gender roles prevail in colonial and colonial, like the global South, and outside of the imperial core, basically. On that note, it's interesting because we kind of talked about this before we got on, when I was talking with you, BP, a little bit about like the separatism and stuff, and that's where it kind of sometimes it feels that way, right? I think that a lot of the reasons why we get this big rejection of what they consider like, oh, this is they consider the LGBTQ movement Western colonization, like part of Western colonization culture. And I think that the reason why yeah, and I think the reason why they latch onto that so much is actually the exact same reason why I think that World War II Germans latched onto the ideas that they latched onto so much. It just so happens to be that this time they're right. Like, they're actually right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why sometimes when we have these kind of surface level of like that's where we get into these like really weird territories, right? Because like they're just rejecting our idea of gender fluidity or gender abolition because they see it as colonization. Like, and what do you do with that? How do you even begin to deal with something that is that intersectional and that complicated? You know,
Endless is a master. Oh, sorry, I know Endless is a master at this.
Yeah,
but,
I was gonna say the reason why is because their particular mindset is itself based in colonization. Because what they won't say the quiet part out loud, which is that they believe that a woman's purpose solely is to create and care for children. And if they aren't making black children, i.e., if the white man convinces black men that they is women, then they won't be making no more babies.
It's so funny because like when you think about it, it's the argument in reverse. Like, a lot of white people today will say that, you know, we're not making enough white babies, and then like perpetuate a society in which like the thing is happening though, because to go back to what you just said, because it's just yo, I hate that argument so much. It's just a repeating cycle of shut the fuck up.
Whenever people say that to me, I'm just like, you could just tell me that you get no pussy, bro. Like,
That's the whole point.
And we talk about historical context. When you started getting civil rights movements, and I say plural because there were several of them, we talk about the historical context that at the time, that black masculinity and that patriarchy was them getting their power back. You look at how much the black man got dehumanized by Europeans for centuries and had their humanity and their masculinity taken from them. And so they say, well, no, now I can be the big dog. I can be the head of the household. I can be a father. I can be the boss. I can work. I can put food on the table myself. I can not take no shit from nobody. The problem is that they didn't go completely to see, hey, you know, this is something, first of all, that affect our sisters, our black women, our daughters, our mothers as well, and that being the oppressor, being the tyrant ain't it, Chief. It's
Especially
not
because the
where it should
women, the
be.
black women went the hardest. Harriet Tubman
They went hard.
I'm gonna
went the
interrupt for
hardest
just a
at all
second
of
if it's
us.
okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Independent Thought, I'd like you to chime in if you can. Give me whatever your thoughts are. I'd really value it.
Yeah, no, I was trying to chime in a little bit ago. I was actually just wondering if anyone was okay with us pivoting the conversation. I think we've been like focusing really like on macro level conversations for like the last like half an hour. I wanted to bring it more back to like a personal setting.
Yeah,
I wanted
let's do it.
I'm good with that.
to say something.
Yeah,
On the
come on in.
personal
On
Come
level.
on
that
in.
note,
So I actually I like and like existential like identity crisis like a good hot like minute ago.
Keep in mind, it's also a big part of just being like a young teenager or like an older teenager. You're like, who the fuck am I? Like, I think you're gonna
That'll
keep on
happen.
doing that for like the next 10 years.
Yeah, it
honestly, you'll
sucks.
probably hit your 30s and still do that. Just if you're black and gender questioning, sexuality questioning, that is going to happen to you well into your 30s, unfortunately.
It
I
is
feel
normal.
so bad. I
Real
feel like
quick,
we're
I
telling
want to
her
hear
that
what it is
Santa
that Bink
isn't
was
real.
questioning. I
Oh,
want to hear what Bink was questioning.
basically I'm into fashion. I already said I'm into fashion. You know, I'll be strutting on the girls. And what happened is that I found out that like historical sewing was a thing. Like, oh shit, like we can wear like garments from like so and so BC. Like, oh shit, that's a thing. Like, I was just so into it, and I actually came across an Asian girl. Mind you, the spaces are like white and then like token like Asian people. And this Asian girl, she's Chinese. And she was talking about like cultural appropriation, and I like was in like the first 2 minutes of the video, and I stopped and I started crying. And the reason why is because like I feel like the reason I'm saying this because like I feel like the severity isn't like real. And I feel like it has to hit home for people to, like understand it. She was talking about garments from like the Han's dynasty. And I sat there and I'm like, fuck. Y'all have documentation from the fucking Han dynasty? Like, holy shit, you're telling
Must
me
be
you
fucking
have
nice.
like right.
Right.
I was like over here like crying because I'm like, dang, I don't even know where my family's from. Like, don't get me wrong, my
Nope.
family's from the Caribbean, but when it comes on to Jamaica, Jamaica was colonized by the Spanish and the English. You telling me I have to wear, you know, European garments in order to like do historical sewing? Like, I can't even like have a personal connection when it comes on to some of these things because there's no record of it. Like, our existence have been erased, really and truly erased. And then when we want to like talk about our existence, we have to talk about it in like in a lens of like oppression. Like, we can't sit here and, you know, be okay and like glorify us and our blackness, because us and our blackness in American society is looked down upon, and then it's taken and reused, and it's like all of these complicated thing. Like, even the thing when it comes on to like femininity, for an example, right? Long hair is considered a feminine feature, right? But if I was to sit here with my 40-inch weave out here flexing on hoes on the street, I'm considered raunchy. I'm considered ghetto. I'm considered, you know, all of these things. For what reason? No reason at all. And this is such an irrational process. And I feel like it's a thing that kind of has to be said, because I feel like we try to like rationalize it within ourselves in order to feel okay, but it's like, no, like this shit is like existential as fuck. Like even going on like the religion aspect, like literally grasping at straws in order to like validate yourself in existence. And I'm a Christian, so I can say that. So like it's just it feels very like holy fuck, like damn, we live in
I
a
feel
It's almost as if and I know Carr is probably really good at this. It's almost as if our placement within how we view things is brand new, while everyone else has stacks upon stacks upon stacks of like,
Yes.
this is how our parents were, this is how our grandparents were, this is how our home country was. When you remove the context of relationships between people and then have them start fresh, you have to adapt. You have to what's the word? What copy? But a better word for copy. Emulate. Thank you.
Mimic. Oh,
Very
okay.
emulate. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true because. Sorry if I cut somebody off. It's
That's
absolutely true.
No, I was going to
because
say something, but please talk.
The revolutionary blackness in the diaspora in North America is young as fuck, and it was built from nothing. It was
Real
nothing.
quick,
It was
I
built
just
from
realized,
fucking nothing.
Independent, what was it that you wanted to get personal?
Oh, well, the conversation went somewhere else. It's all good. I'll get back in there later.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
because-
almost
I
feels
can
like-
say-
I don't want to derail the
I was gonna
conversation.
say I wanted to bring it in, go from macro to micro really quick, just on that note. If you guys,
Yeah.
I just want to say one sentence. It's almost like it feels like we've done everything already, and it feels like kind of like hopelessness. That's what it gets for me.
that is
That's
it.
what it gets for me. That's why Ender, like I was going like so hard on like the separatist idea, because I'm just like, holy shit, it feels like we're trying like every single thing in our possible power and we're getting nowhere. So it's just like, holy fuck, like.
Well,
So
there's an extra layer to the desperation, and I think that everybody's hitting on it. We have no history, but also remember, every time we build it, it's a castle made of sand, because they'll bomb our cities, or they'll wipe out our colonies, or they'll
Literally.
take down, or they'll destroy our farms. They will
shoot us in
literally
the streets.
They
Never
will
enough.
literally go out of their way to destroy our culture, and that's the extra. That's where that extra sauce comes from. That's where that extra anger comes from, because it's not like we haven't tried. We've built ourselves up multiple times over the history of just these United States. But every single time we build anything, they take that big old hammer of white supremacy and just smash a motherfucker. You know what I mean?
We don't even get credit.
absolutely.
We don't get credit for
Yeah.
black scholars talking about black issues.
that's
Like we
what I
don't
was-
get credit like
Yeah,
on
I was-
anything like at all.
I was gonna
I
say
feel
like,
like-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You go, because
No,
I haven't talked to you. I haven't heard you talk
we
about it.
wanted to go like a little bit personal, and I think the thing I can contribute to this conversation is that sociopolitically, my like sides are flipped, where I come from white trash and then like somewhat okay middle class black people. So it's like it's
I wanna
really
get into that.
weird to like feel that, because like because my white side's Irish, so like I
Ooh, I want to get into that.
so like I've seen like it's so weird to watch the interplay, and that's why I have a really hard time with like black separatist talk, because like I've seen that as soon as I've seen black people, as soon as they get the boot on the upper hand, they turn into the other thing, and then it's so easy for those dynamics to get flipped. And if you don't really get at the base of like hierarchy, which is the main issue, then you're just going to end up replicating it, because it can instantly flip the other side around.
Yup.
Like
We
I exist because of class. Because weird thing, my mom is she dated black men for a very weird reason. It wasn't a fetishizing reason. It's because my grandmother had a lot of surrogate births in the 70s. That's how they survived. Is she did like 5 surrogate births. So the reason my mom dated black men was because she was afraid that one of these white boys going around might be her brother.
oh yikes.
Ooh, wow.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
That's
Well,
the most white trash reason to exist.
I was gonna say,
Like-
so yeah, bring it from macro to micro. we're all describing something throughout the course of this entire conversation and the conversation last week, but like what we've all been getting at is whether you're a man or a woman or like coded as a boy or a girl, the one thing that's universal across like blackness, because it's unique to chattel slavery, but also as a consequence of capitalism in a lower class, is that at a certain point, right, as a child, you come to learn or you come to understand that your body does not actually belong to you. It's a commodity for someone else's usage, whether it's sexually or, FD, and shout out to FD again. He was talking about in relation to sports with how young black boys are treated and how their bodies are looked at when it comes to like professional sports
Been
and that sort of
there.
thing.
Yeah.
So, like Bink was talking about earlier, when I was in 7th grade, I was the only black kid in class. I was one of 3 black kids in the whole school out of like 200 something students. And it was like our project, it was like some kind of genealogy or like heritage project. And of course, there's all kinds of Irish people and German people and all these people that were able to, no matter where they sat in the class, like cast, right? Even the lower class ones, like white trash and shit, they all had that well to draw from, right?
Yeah, this sounds like a trauma project. It's like,
Yeah.
draw
Yeah,
yours.
exactly.
Let's see how
Yeah,
far back
no,
you
so
can go.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I go home and I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do this about? My mom was just like, I don't know, make it about Egypt, because she didn't know shit at the time. Like we knew we're from Mississippi, right? My grandmother, I said it last panel, my grandmother is from the same fucking plantation that her mother was from, her mother's father, and her mother's father's father, right? That's all we know, and that's all that we have ever fucking come from. So I was the first person in the family to actually be like, let me see who owned who, like on Angel Fire and shit. It does something to you.
I still
Nas
have
said
the
it
last
once.
You
name.
even wanted to know.
Yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah. My
oh,
last
yeah.
name is Scottish. It comes from people who owned us, but like
Yeah.
it does something to you. And Nas talked about this one time. It does something to you because this happened to me. I saw my great grandfather's name. I saw this man listed, appraised as property in another man's will, right? For the price in modern dollars that it would cost you to buy a fucking Honda Civic, right? You could have
What
bought
year?
my great grandfather for a Honda Civic.
Yeah,
in
you know,
Mississippi.
we talk about at the micro level, how many of us have that same story. My last name and my father's family name is fucking Irish,
Yikes.
and the oldest, I guess you could say, known member of my family, my great grandfather was a slave. And he himself was very fair because he had mixed ancestry with Blackfoot indigenous bands as well as others, and he was fair with red hair. He was like Malcolm X. He had red hair, and that's why
Which one I
my
read?
yeah. It
My
was
other
actually
grandfather was a white man, Irish man. His last name was Vaughn.
yeah, and so finding out my great grandfather, he was, you could say, a slave of high regard, and that he was a horse groom. So he literally took care of his owner's horses. He was paid a little bit. He was allowed to buy nice clothes for himself. He was photographed, which is fucking unheard of because
There was a black middle
expensive.
class.
Yeah.
I didn't know this until I looked into my family
There's
history.
been multiple black
And
middle classes that have been
yet
destroyed.
his value was less than that of the horse he washed and brushed every day.
Wild.
The horse that he has a photograph next to, this prize horse that this guy owned, because a lot of people forget, they talk about horse racing in the United States and the Kentucky Derby, this, that, and the other. At one point in time, all of the winningest jockeys in the fucking world were slaves, black men. They were the best jockeys on the planet. They were the best horse grooms.
I'm gonna be real honest. I feel super uncomfortable interrupting, like when you're talking about your grandpa, how much your grandpa was worth, like as like slave, like these personal anecdotes. But I do want to steer it a bit more towards like like back to gender and how like that connects, if
Oh,
that's okay.
I
Yeah,
wanted
and dating
I
and
wanted to
stuff.
throw something out there too on that, like in that realm, if you guys are cool with me saying something, because I feel like
Yeah.
I alley-oop Car into that one too.
Yeah, no, bring it back for me. I can go off at
Yeah.
any
Okay.
So
tangent.
with what Bink was saying earlier, it's all shit that we've done before, not just in reference to like the middle class and all that, but when we're referring to like challenging like gender norms and sexuality norms, and this is what I have to go back and forth with the advanced hoteps all the fucking time when I gotta tell them, like, yo, you know we had gay niggas in Africa, right? You know there was trans niggas in Africa, right? Like, no
Yep.
matter what indigenous cultures you look at, you'll
In
see
Egypt.
two-spirit people. In Egypt, yes, you'll see two-spirit people, you see lesbians, you see matriarchal societies, right? All these things that was the main thing, like literally one of the main things that was ripped from us because of how fucking powerful it was. That was one of the reasons why they separated us on the boats by man and woman and all that shit. Like, I'm just, yeah. This is meant to be alley oop. I wasn't trying to
Yeah,
go.
Yeah.
there's an interesting part about like how like like we've had gay presidents. I think Tyler Henry or something like that. It
Dog.
was well known that he was gay,
JFK
but
1000% suck some dick. I'm sorry.
no, that was
J-
actually Dixon, Tricky Dicky, right?
Edgar Hoover, they
him
said
too, him
was.
too.
Oh yeah,
They said
they
Edgar
actually
Hoover
named the
was.
vacuums after him.
Dog,
But
if
no,
you JFK definitely had a threesome with another dude. Like, let's not be childish.
wait, was it
That
like
happened.
okay? But anyway, the point being that I think it was John Tyler, or we had an openly gay president at one point in the middle of the 1800s. But white culture, or like white Protestant culture, didn't see homosexuality as an identity, but rather just a thing you could do. Does that make sense? So like,
Historians have a massive problem with that. I've been noticing lately
yeah.
is that they're really reluctant to acknowledge any type of partnership outside of cis
Well,
heteronormativity.
that's because the people then also, because like there was no such thing as being a gay man. There
Yeah,
was
that
just
makes
I
doing
think that
gay
matters
shit.
though.
So what was
Right,
the
facts.
utility of the shift from something you do to something you are?
To
I
oppress people, separate people based on class.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that and
usually.
just I think people became more like, because like I think there was always like agreements, like people would get married because you were supposed to, and there was probably a lot of asexual women who didn't want to have to deal with that shit,
There's
and
a
what they
historical
do,
precedent for
they went to the choir
unmarried.
director who's clearly gay at the church, and then these things needed to be solved, and people found ways to solve them within these own structures.
Can I posit something here? Because I think it'll help even bring us
Real
further
quick,
back to the
okay,
topic.
I'm sorry. I wanna
Oh, yeah.
I wanna do something as I want Bink. I know Binky's trying to talk, so I'm gonna let her go and say something, and then I'm gonna force Paradigm, and then I'd love for you to say what it is you want to say.
Yeah, no problem.
I was gonna go back to kind of like the dating topic and kind of like go further with like marriage and everything. Like, I'm personally uncomfortable with my last name, and I know that's like maybe like such a people think it's like a wishy-washy thing, like it's so like shallow, but I genuinely do not like my last name. My last name is like my last name is Irish, I believe, Irish or Scottish, and from of origin, and it means I've said this before. It means a person who works in a kitchen, and I don't and just to like talk about like people of other countries and everything, my family don't understand why I feel so disconnected with my name. Like they think I'm overreacting when it just feels like, how am I supposed to like, you know, talk about me and my identity when I just have this name attached to me? Like I feel like it invokes a lot. 'Cause I mean, Jamaica was sugar plantations. Like it was sugar plantations. Like where the most horrendous slave owners was from Jamaica. Like his whole diary and everything is of accounts of like sexually assaulting women. Like literally that's why he's so like recognized, because it was over like 100 women. And it's like, graphic. So like for me, it's like I feel like, you know, it's a conversation I have about like games and everything, but it's also a thing of like, if I do have a child, do I want to like, ayo, you can have like a made up name or something, or like a name with like meaning from another culture, or do I rather just like give them my name, or if I date outside of my race, give them, you know, their father's or, you know, their mother's name, like
Can
I
I
don't
ask you a
know.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So it seems to me like because it seemed there you were saying like what am I going to do, like because you have this quandary because it seems like it feels like you're attaching your identity and other people's identities to their name and to their race. Why is that really important? Is that really important to you, like the idea that like your name ties you to like this social group?
I mean, I live in the South, and like I feel like I have a Southern Belle name, like my actual name.
Mhm.
I don't identify with being Southern.
Well, I
So like,
suppose you can always do the thing that like a lot of people were doing in the 60s, like Fred Hampton's like widow or like dead fiance changed her name. Like that's something that people can do. Is like if you don't want to keep your colonizer name, it's something very common that people create a new name
Yeah.
for themselves.
Yeah.
Be Princess.
What do you mean you
Yeah.
don't feel Southern?
I mean, like I don't like, for as I said, like my family's Jamaican. I don't identify with being Southern. I have no like actual connection when it comes on to like me interacting with people of like being Southern. I feel more attached to being Jamaican than being Southern.
Does that bother
Like,
you?
does it? Yes, it bothers me a lot because I feel like I'm different for no reason, and it hinders my ability to like create like relationships just because of like basic like household principles of like
what kind of household principles?
I've said this before, like the whole like friendship thing. Like friendship is, ayo, I know you from a long ass time. Now people I know for 6 years and they don't even bat an eye to me. Like
And-
your family at that point. Like
but do you think that's tied to you not feeling culturally Southern? Like that, I think that's what I worry about a little bit because it sounds like you're really like this is really bothering you. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, because it does, because it's like a constant reminder. I go to school every day.
Probably
with
alienating,
people.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like it feels like because the way like my household is like for example, you guys are talking about just to bring it back to dating, you guys are talking about, oh well, the idea of bringing people over to your house. For me, my parents are like, listen, because we are a very close knit family. They ain't come over to your house and meet your parents before. They ain't your family. Like they're not your friends. They're not your friends. If they never came over to the house once, they're not your friends. If
Facts.
they haven't been out with you, they're not your friends. Like there's just a basic stuff when it comes on to like having like friendship and having like relationships. That is like, I'll go out and like at school, because you know your child, so school is really your only way here.
There was two rules that my mother told me that
Um,
I didn't understand until I became an adult, and that was don't hang out with, if you go to the mall, don't bring anyone with you who can't fight, number one, and number two, they're not your friend unless I've met them, right? And I didn't understand
Right.
either of those two things until I watched a bunch of my friends get their asses kicked in the mall, and then had a bunch of people screw
Right.
me over, and my mom be like, "Oh, I would have known," you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it's weird.
I'm kind of the
Yeah.
opposite. If my mom
Yeah,
approves of
same.
somebody, it's a red flag.
Yeah, same here. Like, I just have no connection with my parents, so it's like it's really odd to me. For like, I actually actively like try to distance myself. So that's why it's sometimes it's just different strokes for different folks. It's interesting to see
Yeah.
how these different frameworks play out in our understanding of our identity and our connection with our race, our gender, things like that. That's why I'm really interested in hearing what
Yeah.
you have to say.
Because the other
Yeah,
thing
it-
is, oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying like I don't mind like answering questions or anything like that. This is what I was saying.
Because I was gonna
Right.
say, like I don't know about you, but I also grew up in relative cultural isolation. So
I've got to
that's
use my force powers real quick.
that in
I
itself
really,
made me
I
close to my
demand
family,
Paradigm
sorry.
Speaks.
That's, you know what? If anybody knows, Destiny would hate to hear you say that, because apparently, according to his chat, I never shut the fuck up. Before I begin my piece, doing the thing I always do, which is enveloping everybody's points into my own strange universe, I'd like to let everybody know that today this show is sponsored by Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. Sweet Baby Ray's. What the fuck are you putting on anything else anyway? Anyway,
Delicious. We
That
all get
happened.
paid for that plug, right? We all get paid for that.
yes, all of us, yes. Yeah.
Checks in the mail.
Do we get paid in barbecue sauce? Because I'd rather take that.
Really? Oh, I'll let them know. I'll let them know.
Oh my god.
All right, but if I don't get paid in a
I want
week,
that
I'm
money.
gonna be like, "Yo, Paradigm, where my money at?"
See, what happened was my internet had went off. Hey, I had missed the email. I ain't clicking in time. It gonna be in the next pay cycle. My bad, bro. My bad. I ain't sending a timesheet. My bad. Oh no. Oh no. I remember this conversation, and it's so eerie to me because when you live in the inner city, dating doesn't have this like, white people are the exotic people, and that's so strange to me that, like, and I remember telling the story last time. Oh my god, I'm about to have a paradigm moment. I'm sorry. Oh, so I'm gonna connect last panel to this panel because I said I was gonna bring it up. I remember this story about all the, I remember in high school, that story I told about how we listed all of our beauty standards, and all of them ended up being, like, describing white people. But, like, there was only one to two white people in each of our classes. So, like, where did that come from? And now that makes me think, based on what I'm hearing, like, you can't even bring your cultural norms into dating spaces because you've been completely so, like, how do you date someone when you have to sit there and say, you're gonna have to learn that we eat this type of stuff, we do this stuff on Sundays? And the rejection of just merely that, because some people might be like, oh, my church sermons aren't that loud. My church sermons are more, we all pray. And now let's say our hymns. Well, you know,
That
Black
Latin
Drummond
is
is
lit.
ripping it off.
Don't
Like,
sleep on the Latin. The white people Catholic church is kind of lit too.
and
I'm
it,
sorry, continue.
go ahead. Yeah, and it makes me question, when you think about dating between two Black people, are they not even dating each other? Are they dating, like, and that makes me think about me personally. Like, my fear has always been about longevity. My first relationship, I told you guys, like, we had to sneak around for whatever, and, like, I was always the one to have to bring up that masculine role of, like, we need to do this and this is how things go. And the timidness of her not embracing the fact that we come from the same place. Your parents should be fine with it. You should be fine with it. Like, these rules, these guidelines for how we even discuss, hey, maybe I should meet your parents and, like, let them know who I am. Well, you got to put on the, you know, you have to, let me do it as I did in speech class. You have to put on the voice, and you have to, hey, my name's Marquise. Pleasure to meet you. And, like, this is not a job interview. This is my love life. Like, I'm vulnerable by just the mere thought of coming to you and saying, hey, I'd like to date you. But now, like, how do I approach that? When I used to think about it when I was younger, you know, like I said, I but I was the Kane Carter model, you know, this shit should be obvious. Like, all the days you came to my house, you picked the day my dick was the hardest. But then, like, that's only funny to me in that context of within, like, Black humor. That's something you can't say outside of that caveat. But wait, if you can't make that, even though that's a dumb joke, if you can't make jokes, like, what can you say? And it started to envelop in my head to the point where I could never feel, I still don't know what masculinity is to me as a Black man. In this dating, I don't know what masculinity is to, like, I'll even, you know what, since we're going into the
Abolish gender.
Somebody said macro, we're going to the micro. Like, I've dated a trans woman. I can't talk about that experience. Not because I don't want to, but because everyone around me will sit and say,
ew, this nigga gay.
Yo, fuck.
Yeah, yeah,
Pause.
Like,
yeah.
but yeah,
Pause.
like,
Where did Riley
right.
Freeman get here?
And it's like all of these things create a circle of friends that I sit around who echo these ideas, or whether I remove myself and put myself in another group, and that, not even trying to be funny, limits my dating pool. Why is it that all of these boundaries are so set to where we have to discuss them as though they're trauma, when it should be like a black space is a new space? Kat, it's I'm using you as an example because the girl I'm about to bring up looks like you. Sorry, I hate to do it.
Most of them do. We all look alike. What can I say?
Oh no!
Here
Oh
we
no!
Yo,
He's going there.
I have a friend of mine who would say, you know, you make the awesomest points, but sometimes you really put your foot in your mouth and just don't do it. But I know
No,
y'all.
I think you should do it. I think you should do it.
It's controversy. We drama baiting. Let's get our clips in. No, I know you're joking. But
I know if I see my name next to anything with the word clip or chimp in it, TOS.
copy. There was a girl I met named Cheyenne, and she had that same approach to what. Sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry, my TTS is talking. It's throwing me off. Okay, there we go. She had that same approach to dating, but she was one of those like straightforward women. But she was so she was so caught within her being her certain size, her certain speech, the way she looked like she was young, she was a little child. But like she wanted to be aggressive, but she didn't want to match the tone of like a man. And she didn't know how to approach me to talk to me because she was like, I don't want to, you know, make you feel like less of a man. And it's like, we're two black people. I don't think about that dynamic. But that dynamic is what led us to even meet. Now we're playing on a field that isn't even ours that we set up. How do you find love as a black person?
Are we talking about the trans woman?
No, I switched. I moved. Yeah.
Can I say to what you're saying really just sounds like, and we were talking about this before in the other panel, like you were linking, all of us, because we are marginalized, are radicalized, and a lot of the time that makes us associate our personal characteristics with what it means to be black. So I think a lot of what you're saying is, like, for example, for some people, especially, it is very normal in our culture, like, for some people, gang culture is masculine. Like, and that's a lot of women out there that are seeking that sort of thing. But because we associate our marginalization with blackness, they assume their idea of masculinity is a black masculine idea. So instead of saying, hey, it's just I have a different idea of masculinity, it turns into, you're not black enough for me.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. And my biggest gripe comes down to how many situations have I, and you know I haven't, but how many situations have I been in, I should say, that make me feel like I don't know if I could be bi. I don't know if I could be pan. I don't have the identity to attach to say I experimented with this or I even thought about this. It's bad for me because as a black person, and I can't believe I'm saying that in this regard, but as a black person, it's like, I don't want to date nobody unless you can match my energy. Like, you have to be so specifically within a vein of like, I hope you don't think about these things. And that really cuts off the idea of education or the chance of possible blossoming, because it's, no, I have to educate you on some things. Nope, you can't. I don't know why you would say that. Like, yeah, go ahead.
Wait, so really quick, actually, so Fluff his internet's like shitting itself right now, but he told me that he wanted me to let you guys know that it's time to go to closing statements. I guess if anybody does have anything that they would like to like bring up from, you know, anybody else's point, please do. But because the person that has to go to soonest is independent, I wanted to let them go first in terms of closing statements. So basically, like, anything that you didn't get to say, also like shout yourself out, also like, who are you and why should we care, besides the fact that you're black, and that's pretty good already. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I had a couple of things I wanted to say in there. I'm really bad about just like cutting people off, which I know is like what you're supposed to do in these situations, but I'm really terrible about always feel like, oh, I'll just wait till they're done, and then it's like
I hate to cut you
people
off.
later.
But we talked about that
three
before.
people later. Yeah, 3 people later, the conversation's somewhere else, and I'm just like, oh, missed my moment. I guess it's done now. Yeah, Desmond Price, host of the Independent Thought podcast. Appreciate y'all having me here today. You should not care about anything going on, but if you're curious, then you should come check it out because there's something that I have to say, and I say shit all the time, so come check it out. Political podcast.
And yeah, what are some things that you just do have to say? Like, I guess if there were any points that you
Oh,
were
you want me
like,
to keep going? I thought
Yeah.
it was closing statement.
your closing statements, but you can say all the things that you didn't get to say.
I was actually just going to ask a question. I have been not single for a minute now. So I was trying to ask who the single people were in the room and what are your current issues that you experience with dating?
I'll go first, really quick.
Okay.
I was gonna say, like, I had been like, I'm 3 years out from a pretty serious relationship that lasted like 2 years, wherein there was some dynamics that I recognized were really toxic, and I had also realized I had no idea what a healthy relationship looked like. And this was also a relationship that occurred in the aftermath of a really bad non-monogamous relationship that I had. So I'm kind of in the process of like just exploring. I'm focusing on me, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm exploring like non-monogamy and, pansexuality and just kind of figuring myself out and how to be a good partner in the event that I do end up in another relationship. So that's kind of why I'm single at the moment anyway.
Okay, I'm the other single person here. I have no problems with dating. I do it really well. It's the only thing is this women of every race want to touch my hair, and that's just kind of fine. It's just I'm grown used to that. I will say that
Is it actually fine or have you just like kind of like
I'm
just stopped
desensitized
caring?
to it. Like what like I literally get stopped on the street like probably twice a week to be told that I look like Maui from Moana. So
You look
like
like a rock star. That's why they want to touch it.
I
Got
mean
that rock
whatever.
star hair.
But the one thing I noticed a lot because you guys I was actually really surprised by Paradigm talking about a black woman being scared to match his masculinity in a way that would offend him because in my experience every black woman I've ever dated has never given a shit. Like has just completely like ran me over and just like talked all the shit in the world. And I wanna know, was it because they were perceiving me as white? Was it like yeah, that's what I figured it was. So that was really weird. And every like white girl that I've ever dated is usually very passive and like needs to be acted upon. Like if I ask like my ex who's black where we want to eat, she has an answer. But if I ask my white one, she doesn't. So I wonder like the material conditions of that is a really interesting thing to explore.
I'm not single, but I haven't been in a relationship for long, but I guess a big problem for me is usually like I focus too much on my career. Um, and right now, since I'm not doing that, I feel like a giant void in my life and like I'm not doing very much and it makes me feel very weird and I don't dedicate all that much time to my relationships usually because I'm too busy worrying about like how I can like I don't know. I'm not like a monetary like influence person. I usually work for non-for-profits, but usually I'm like I don't need to be here because if I'm like working, I'm actually helping like hundreds of people, whereas if I'm hanging out with you, I'm just spending time with you. So
Are you goal
Uh,
oriented? Sorry, I just want to ask something to Kat real quick. Are you like goal oriented?
yeah, I'm very goal oriented, but like I care about promotions for the sake of like getting extra responsibility. I would prefer to give me less money. I don't really give a fuck about the dollar bill stuff.
Something
feel
that
that.
helped me a lot post college is stop being goal oriented and be process oriented.
I,
Because if you sorry, I'm not trying to be like mansplaining. It's just like goals are consequences of process. You know, um it helped me a lot just to stop having goals and just work on the process.
I'll probably have to
Sorry.
hit you up to figure out more about
Trust
what that
the
means.
process.
Yeah.
So did I derail closing statements? This is why I was trying to just close it out. You brought me back in here. Now we're going.
No, we
somewhere
love
You
it.
gotta
We
say
love
it.
it.
No, it's like you were clearly like wanting to say something for a while, so it's better that
I
you
was just trying to get more
I
more
was gonna answer
I guess
the question.
intimately figuring out who everyone was on the panel. We were talking about very like macro level, like societal issues, very kind of this like it's
That's
very
probably
big,
my fault.
very big
Can never
topics.
turn the politics off.
I just wanted to figure out like
I'm
who
here
everyone
and I'm a
was
fan, so
individually.
that's
He's just trying to find guests for his podcast. It's fine.
I'm always trying to find guests for my podcast.
I'm on, I'm
DMing
down, I'm
everybody
down.
after this.
I have no shit going on.
So answering the question. Basically, and I keep reading myself because I always repeating myself. I'm too black for people. People are turned off by me because I like talking about politics and history. All of my friend groups are, well, a lot of people in my friend group or like a side friend group, because the friends who know the friends, are queer. They're either bi or they're pans. Most of them are women, black women. It's hard for me because due to like trauma and everything, I'm very strict on who I'm going to go out with. Like I'm very, very strict on who I go out with. And it's to the point where I feel like I'm being toxic, but at the same exact time, I don't want to, give leeway to something, like a bad relationship. That's why it may seem like when it comes to like a relationship and me, just start talking to somebody that I'm really blunt with what I want. Like, look, this is what I want in a relationship. And if you do not want to cater to what I want, then you got to go. Like, I'm very, very blunt with it. And just like my age and everything, a lot of people my age are just like,
Probably intimidating.
what are, right there, like, what are you talking about? And like just touch on like the whole idea of like black women, and like the way they talk and everything. I'm personally like actually intimidated by men who are very stern in the way they talk. Like,
Oh, really?
very like what, and I kind of think that's why I like don't like some people that like I know IRL, but it's just like having that like strong voice. They're just like, you're very stern. That scares me. And that like it's not okay. I don't know
I get
why,
it.
but I get triggered by it. So
Oh, I definitely get it.
So,
No, it makes sense because it to try and go off of what Bink said. It's something that it was the other toxic half of how I was raised. They always say, hey, put some bass in your voice, chin up, speak up, be
Say
loud,
it with
and
your chest.
say it with your chest. And what they're telling you to do is assert dominance over all the listeners in the room around you. Give them that firm handshake and basically overpower them with your vocal presence. And it's right to be hesitant around that because it's fucking toxic and it's people trying to project strength through their mannerism and through their lexicon. I just unfortunately can't turn it off. I do apologize.
no,
Oh,
it's not.
Juno
No,
was,
you're
though.
good.
I mean,
But
that was
Independent,
good
did you
one
get
that-
everything that you wanted to say? Because I know that you said that you had to go. I don't want to like force you to stay like for an hour past when you were supposed to. But
Oh yeah. I was just gonna ask questions. So yeah, I'm good.
okay, cool. I mean,
Yeah.
if you
If you
want
have
to stick
more
around,
questions,
if
I
you
like
have more
them.
questions, you're a-okay. It's just do that. But like, if you have like a hot date or something, I get it.
No, it's well, I do have someone waiting on me, but like they can wait a few minutes. It's all right. No, I was just gonna ask everybody like, how much does race, I guess, come into the equation when you're figuring out who you want to date?
I get
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
It doesn't.
I'm very
It
scared.
doesn't.
I'm serious. No, I'm not like joking. Like actually, like my parents have like come to me with like, Bink, I feel like you would marry like a white man. I don't know why they come up to me and like say stuff like that, but I like talk to people at school and they're like, yeah, they say that a lot, and I don't know why. And like, for me, I'm scared because when it comes on to, as I said, what I want to do with my life, like what my passion is, my passions is very intimidating for people. And I feel like because I talk about these structures and the whole 9 to 5, people feel like alienated when I talk, and I don't understand why. And
Well,
like,
can I say this, because I hear so much distress in this? Just so you know, you're on a panel full of guys that would absolutely date you the way you fucking are. The way that the things that you talk about, the comments that you make, the things that are interesting to you, and it may seem that every man is like a different way, and it's because it's a function of statistics. You could be talking to just 0.01% of the population and it would feel like everybody, but there are guys out here that are like us, and I don't want you to ever get down on, because that's what I didn't like hearing, because it feels almost like you're getting a little down on, if I choose this, I am also choosing to be alone. I just don't want you to ever feel that way. I mean, I think you have wonderful opinions and thoughts. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's more so like for me, and like I've said this like when I talked on like the previous panel, I don't believe in like catering to like people when like they're white. Like I don't care. I don't believe in catering to like white people when it comes to my rhetoric. I don't care. I will speak the bread slur and like don't really give a fuck. So like for me, it's a thing of like people we live in like a very racial society, and I will speak and like what do you guys like say, like monoliths and everything, and I personally do not care when I speak that way, because I feel like people like IRL function that way. So I have no problem saying like, well, they like the other day, I actually got shit on, and it's funny that Paradigm said this, but I was like, bro, there's a time when like black men were like fetishizing Latina people, and I got actual like shit for it, like when I said that, because like, oh well, group is not a monolith, but it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm alienated because of the way I talk about these things, but it's like nobody just wants to talk about them with me, and it's just like, you're just like, oh well, you say that, it's like you never want to approach me when it comes onto this, and you say you like me, and when it comes onto me, and someone says something like that's a bad like race take or anything, and like just being black period, no matter if like you're dating or whatever, it's quote unquote my responsibility to correct them because I'm the most marginalized person, because I'm a woman, I'm queer, and because do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, it's just so multi-layered to the point where it's like aggravating.
I guess for me, it does come into play. Not a lot of times it's subconsciously, but part of it is like within Haitian society, I think cheating's way too frequent, so I just don't really feel comfortable dating any Haitians. That takes out a lot of the possibilities of what I can date living in Montreal. And then all the non-Haitian guys do not date, at least within like the physics department, don't date other black women. A lot of them are dating white women. And then yeah, I guess it just kind of leaves me with like, during all of university, I've never once been hit on by a black guy. Like never. Like no black men have ever asked me out. None of them have like said hello to me, nothing. Like no fucking play at all. So it just kind of like leaves that out. And then I guess yeah, I also in my like really younger years, I've had when I moved to Baltimore County, I had a lot of like traumatic experiences with like yeah, black men. Not that I would ever say like, ew, someone did this to me and that's your fault, but I guess it might make me a little bit
different out here.
Yeah, I guess coming from like, you know, Wellington, Florida, the like city of like where we play polo in the winter, to Baltimore County was a very much different type of culture.
Yes.
So
I'm sorry that was your culture shock, but yeah, we're a little different out
yeah,
here.
when I first moved to Baltimore, I'm like, there's a lot of black people here.
I wanted to answer the question though on like, do we consider race? Like, I don't think that like, and I'm going to be real here, and I'm just being honest with everyone here. I think if you say you don't, you're lying. Not because you consider whether that makes the person worthy of dating, but you definitely do consider the interactions of the race of the person that you're with, and all the baggage that goes along with that. Because it's true, whether we want to or not, whether I accept, like I said before this panel, I don't believe in race. It's not a biological thing. We talk in clines. I actually think of humans as humans, but to ignore the social construct that it pervades all of our lives, like
Well,
it's
it-
like
I
you
would
can't.
say
It
that
depends
you can
on-
be you could be cognizant of things like power structures, and you can be
Mhm.
cognizant of things like historical context, but still, when you approach things like dating, have a more humanist approach and say, that is not something that is a consideration. You sit down and talk to a person, and your first thought is, okay, is this a positive human interaction that I'm having? Not,
Right.
is this a positive interaction that I'm having with someone who is melanin compatible?
You see-
Not so
you-
much
no,
a
no, but-
disagreement. I think maybe we're not connecting on how we see the
Yeah.
question.
Well, no,
I was gonna
yeah,
say-
and I think that's what it is. Because just to kind of comment on that, I hear exactly what you're saying. But for example, and here's a specific example: white women dating white women comes with a load of baggage, and
Yeah, it does.
sometimes, even though I may care about you personally and may find your personality attractive, parts of your personality come in conflict with that existence. For example, like the whole black men beat their women thing, right?
Mhm.
I've had partners that, through no fault of their own, just look like they're going to break in public, and that causes them stress because then everybody comes at me because they're like, what are you doing to her?
Right.
And that causes, and it wraps into this whole, and it becomes mentally not healthy for you two to be together, simply because of personality quirks that come into conflict with our racial identities and the way that society sees us. And that's what I mean. Like, I mean, it's not like I care about what race you are, but how you're built does matter
Well,
to the
yeah.
topic of race.
I was gonna say, I think you guys are both correct, because it's in terms of just physical attraction. Like, if I'm just
Mhm.
like at the mall or something, I'm just like looking at booties or whatever. I don't care that, like, no shade of melanin is
Booty is booty.
specifically more attractive than another. You get what I'm saying? But there's also that aspect of what you were saying is, if it gets to that level and I'm being gifted the booty, and if it progresses beyond something like that, then I have to figure, how am I going to move? Like, especially when you talk about raising kids and stuff, right? Because then that's when you really have to think, like, okay, am I going to have to deal with racist ass peepaw every holiday? Am I going to be dropping my children off with people who fucking hate them every holiday? You know what I mean? Like, how is this
No,
going to operate?
no, I absolutely
Um,
get that. I think I
I
can.
just want to say,
Sorry.
thanks for Endless for his new trademark phrase, as he did last panel, being gifted the booty.
You can't take the booty.
booty.
And you can't finesse the booty. A lot of men try to finesse the booty. You gotta be gifted the booty.
You tell that
The
to the
is
booty warrior.
bestowed.
The booty
booty
warrior
is
comes along
bestowed.
and he says, "I likes you and I won't you."
Oh my
Now we
God.
can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. The choice is yours.
Oh,
And they always said yes.
don't
Hey,
joke.
So
Hey,
anyone
patriarchy
that has
coming
like
in,
any
we're
like
just talking
actually
about
like
prisoner joke.
real quick, anyone that has like any like actual pressing thoughts like they have like in their head and want to get out,
Yes.
'cause, like,
Yes,
they're kinda,
yes,
like,
yes.
wanted to chill
I gotta
down.
go soon.
Okay.
I will do my
Slack
closing
is
statement.
gonna
I will.
go.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Bink.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to touch on what Paradigm said when it comes into like how we kind of checklist when it comes to dating. For me, the level of intimacy when it comes on to friends is different. So it kind of seems like I'm flirting with friends, or like I'm always trying to sleep with my friends, but in reality, like, being a friend is a very intimate thing, and like in my household, like all of like like it was like when I went to Jamaica, like it's 7 people in one bed, like it's 10 people in one car, like everybody use hand me downs, like it's a very intimate thing when it comes on to being accepted with your family, and having friends. So one of my difficulties when dating is being like, hey yo, like this is how we we are. Like, this is what you got to accept. It's not just jerk chicken and oxtail every Easter Sunday. Like, we are actual people, and this is how
Sounds delicious.
no, don't get me wrong.
Fucking lit. What are you talking about?
Like,
I want some cocoa bread. I'm just saying.
Don't forget the ginger
no,
beer.
literally. But it's a thing of like, how do I even, even like go at school, like even when I go to school, right? People think I'm an inherently flirty person, but just like I'm just nice. Just because I'm nice doesn't mean I'm flirting to you. Like, just because I'm cordial, not to like curse you out. I mean,
Well, it's because nobody's nice to men, so of
Yo,
course.
this is a whole nother
that's like a whole issue within gender roles.
I feel like we tried to avoid this the whole night just so we could get everything else out, and now we're
that's a really major issue where like just general friendliness from female presenting people will be taken as being like inherently sexual. Like, I've had like guy friends where I'm like, you can sleep over at my house because you're evicted, and then they come up over, they're like, what's up? I'm like, do you want to sleep in the metro? Like,
no,
this isn't, it's not sexual. Do you want to sleep in the metro? Like, chill out. Like this, but they're always like, ooh. I think there's just a general,
actually
it has to do with the thing that endless, like, that we're all hinting at, which is like, nobody loves men. Like, it's a thing, and we can we can have a whole panel about it. But that's those behaviors, and we're not
this conversation.
Yeah, and we're not excusing the behavior, by the way. We're not. This is the stuff I was saying earlier when I was saying men treat everything like video games. This is why. We're all talking about this thing.
Yeah, like it's sad because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, and I've said this, I feel like a lot of dating practices are predatory, and because it is predatory, then goes to the whole thing of like, anytime, and all of the girlies in chat, like, you grow up like in a very cis hetero normative environment. Anytime a girlie gets wronged by a dude, the first thing is like, niggas are shit. That's the very first thing you say is, damn, dudes ain't shit. That's the very first thing you say, and you will walk around for a whole 2 months singing.
I've never heard a gay man say that, so I feel like you guys are lying. No, I'm kidding.
I was gonna say, it's not that nobody cares about men, it's that men treat each other piss poor, because there's lots of women and lots of other people who care about men, they just don't care about themselves.
It's really
Showing
weird
emotion
because
is
like
masculine.
I actually had like the friends of the friends. I had like probably around like 5 to like 6 dudes who know me. I cut all of them off because I feel like they looked at me like an object, which I didn't really fully understood at the time. But then looking back, it is like, yeah, the only time you're talking about me is like you're trying to flirt with me, and then I'm like, ayo, flirt, I guess, I don't know, because remember, all of my girly friends like girls, so like we just be flirting, and it'd be like labao, but we're chill, like it's not serious. But when it comes on to the dudes, it'd be like, yeah, bro, like, get your number, like, I thought we was for real, and it's like, no, like, you're just my friend. Like, I flirt with the girls and I flirt with the boys, but the boys be taking it serious. I just be like, bro, I can't have guy friends. Like, I can't have guy friends because of
Boys
that.
be getting that sucker attack,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
And the
I feel
weird
like,
thing is, it's like, it's just performance for other boys too. Like, it doesn't even have anything to do with you. It's literally just to prove themselves to the other men around them, because they think that's what they have to do.
But I feel like that's the thing for me when it comes to relationship that's the most important, is intimacy and understanding. I think that's the most important thing ever. Everything else can go. Everything else can like leave, and it's just that I'll be 100% camp approval. Like like I feel like that's the thing that's also like been kind of lost. Like, and that actually is funny because I've said this in like my history class, like older people being like, oh fuck, like I hate the younger generation because they don't understand. But it's just like literally people don't cherish the little things feel like that's what fucks people over,
It's because
especially when it comes on to relationships.
the younger people aren't going to participate in a lot of the bullshit traditions that they have. That's why they're
Oh, it's
mad.
not.
'Cause
No,
we're
it's
free in
not.
a way that they can't
I'm
be.
sorry, guys. I gotta push it away a little bit just to let Paradigm get a chance to do his closing statement and just kind of let everybody get a chance so they can.
What's up?
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So my closing statement is first, hey everyone, if you enjoyed what you listened to today, which I know you did because I can still see you in those chats chatting away. I currently have something that's why I need to go, because I currently have a chat issue that I need to deal with. Just they wilding right now. Every time black people come on, it's always a problem. You can find me at twitch.tv/the_paradigm_shift. Please do me a favor and go message Twitch right now and let them know to give me back my username. I hate the underscores. I am the true one and only king of Twitch politics. Not literally, but like.
You just switch it on and off like that. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm a performer. I just
Code
do
switch.
that. But the point I wanted to drive home is that, and this is why I had brought up earlier the idea of the panel being male dominated, is it's the main, to even wrap up, but to go back to the main topic, because this is so deep and it falls so down, it's the Serena Williams complex. It's the identity of black women to be both the most strongest of the household and also the weakest within society, because your favors, your characteristics only define how eligible you are to enter within somebody else's household. For black men, and I know y'all seen this argument many times. Somebody had said this earlier, and that's why I even wanted to close with this. Somebody had said earlier, you can't be too black people don't like black women to be too masculine. They hate that shit. But the entirety of the Serena Williams complex is somebody who's right. It's it puts it, and that's why I was so keen on letting the women speak. The onus is on women so much, especially black women, to be everything, and then for black men, for us to be nothing and everything. Does that make sense? I know that's tricky, and that's a can of worms that you'd have to dive into, but the ending point would be when we start talking about dating and relationships within this community, we have to forge these relationships ourselves. And it's so weird that I could say that out loud and be like, well, everybody be like, well, yeah, obviously, duh. But at the same time, it goes back into Aston's point. But what are you forming that from? But where are you getting that from? Where did you learn enough to be able to say, I can forge my own path? Do we as a community of minorities have that understanding that we could make this shit whatever we want? Or is there always that top layer of yeah, you can make it whatever you want in your own little world, but when you come to America, there are certain rules we play by.
Catering to white people.
Right, so if you didn't, to sincerely wrap it up, if you didn't understand the Serena Williams complex as opposed and connection to this, it's this idea that you can achieve everything you want, and for some reason your characteristics don't give you the validity to be an attractive partner. It doesn't matter what you do, because for some reason the escapism route is, you do this and that's a little too black for me. You do this and that doesn't fit in with my friend group. You do this or you've done this and that's really cool, but you really got to be talking about rap music? I'm here to listen to some Hall & Oates. It's so thank you. It's so damning that you end up in this void of, will I just be alone because I don't know how to express this in a way that is acceptable for you but not diminishing to me. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think, well, no, now more than ever I think it's a possibility, but 5 years ago it wasn't. I think now we kind of are gathering that understanding as a community because, and this is why the Serena Williams complex thing comes in, you have these female stars now being more open with sexuality. I'm going to just put it in front of you. I'm going to give you what you want in a way where you can't deny where it's coming
This is
from.
what you came for.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I feel like...
Are you not entertained?
What I want the takeaway, at least from my perspective, to be for everyone is that there are always positions of things that we have to work on when we talk about our opinions and how we see people, but don't lose sight of that open mind to say things like, oh, I don't see it when I go out to date somebody. I don't see it when I involve myself in the conversations. I want you to also, though, be prepared that even though you don't, and I know Ender said this already, but it's a point that needs to be made. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it won't play out in a way that you don't see coming. I feel like the Black community, at least, is awakening to the idea that these other identities, these other wants we want from relationships, these abolishing of gender roles, these things that we want to take upon ourselves to learn and do and grow from are acceptable. And that is what is becoming the mainstream. Now, we can sit here for hours and talk about Lil Nas X and how much white people hate him and like the whole Satan thing. We could do that. But like, there's a reason why that's a chart trending artist who is not afraid to exist within that box that we even ourselves said is something that normally wouldn't be accepted within the household. I don't feel like any of us bringing home Lil Nas X is going to work with our parents. But, like, he a good person. A good dude. Like, great. Like, what's the issue? We are now getting to a point in our media and our understanding, at least on a surface level within, like, you know, social media or whatever, that we can say, hey, this isn't a white person thing. This is an everybody thing. And I identify with that. And you're going to have to accept me because even though you think I'm going to get ostracized by those people down the corner, hey, yo, look at my mans. My mans is up there doing the thing. Like, and the more representation, the more representation that we get and the more we put out that message that, hey, it's okay to not fit within that stereotype. It does not diminish your Blackness at all. I think will help people confront these issues as a, wait a minute, no, that just because you think the other people talk like that's not me, but I'm still Black. Hey, and I'm cute. And that's my piece. Thank you guys for listening. I do have to go, but I appreciated the panel. Everybody was dope. Y'all already know my feelings. I'm gonna see y'all next. I'm gonna see y'all next.
Paradigm is Black and cute.
100%.
Thank you. I'm probably gonna see a few of y'all next week. I hope to be invited back. I don't know, you know. Thanks.
Anyone that wants to be invited back is invited back unless you say gamer words.
Oh,
Yes,
I'm
please.
gonna eat too. The only thing I was,
Like FPS, JRPG.
last thing I was gonna say,
So-
it's okay to not have solutions to everything. 'Cause I feel like not only in dating, but also as us as like leftists, it's okay to not have a solution for literally everything. It's a group activity, okay? You don't have to put the burden on just you as the
That's Black
individual
anarchism.
person. So just wanted to say that. But I'm gonna eat. Oh my gosh, later, guys. Thank you for having me, Kat.
No problem.
Bye.
Now, Car,
being here,
I
bro.
guess it's your turn for your closing
Yeah.
statement.
I am hitting the 90-minute mark, which is about the limit before the executive dysfunction starts really flaring up. So, first of all, for everybody who doesn't know, I am Carr. As I said at the beginning, I am a Black anarchist YouTuber. I do political commentary, positive hotepery, and just general Afrocentric and
Positive hotepery, yes.
music. I do make original music for all of my scripted videos. Recently, I made a video about the horrors of hosting major sporting events in your town. Kind of inspired by Fig's video about Black athletes, but kind of a sister project. Be like, hey, you know, sporting organizations in general are just dog shit. You know, don't if they try to bring Super Bowl to your town, even though my darling Cincinnati Bengals are fucking going to the big dance.
Hey,
You're a Bengals fan?
I'm Cincinnati born and raised.
Oh.
hey.
Wait, you were born in Cincinnati?
Nasty Natty, absolutely.
Let's
Yo!
Born and
go.
raised.
I was born in Dayton.
1989.
I'm a Cleveland fan.
I'm
but
a
thank
few
God
years
for
older
that.
than you, and that's it, Ender. So even though that happens, if they want to host that shit or the Olympics or the World Cup in your town, protest that shit, picket that shit, make them very uncomfortable because it is terrible for your city. And until every single unhoused person is pulled off the streets and homed, they don't need to be spending the millions or billions on that bullshit. Okay, soapbox moment done. Let's talk about dating, gender, and queerness. So the one thing I guess I could lament that I didn't get a chance to get to, but I'm okay. I'm happy to talk. Everybody here is a welcome guest in a scripted video or a stream with me anytime. We didn't get to Black Kink. I am a kinky son of a bitch. I don't know if anybody
it's
here.
funny because Mac is like in my chat right now. Be like, why didn't we talk about kink?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it Twitch TOS friendly, but
I think you can talk about anything as long as you don't bring anything out of your closet out.
Oh, well, see, I can't go get the toy box. So the point is, I think that how we take our radicalized and potentially jaded background as Black lovers into the kink sphere and what that means for us then, especially if you start talking about interracial interactions in the kink sphere. Listen, I'm a level with you. I've been told straight up by people who are, getting a bit flirtatious and whatnot, that by white people, they're just like, oh, they get real out of pocket, and they think it's perfectly natural to say, oh, I want you and your big Black body to just ruin me, just dominate me, and completely just destroy me for future generations. And I'm like, oh, stop, no, you're ruining it. And so I think that that's something to consider as well. And I don't know if anyone else here is poly, but how you interact being Black, dating Black people, or being Black and dating interracially, and being polyamorous is another thing that we don't touch on a lot. And I think that we talk about, going against those old paradigms that were set by our families growing up. I'm the kid that did the complete 180, forswore religion, got rid of that, went away from monogamy, went away from vanilla, and, went away from the colonialist work ethic and instead sought out anarchism in my late 20s. And I think that the best thing I could tell, I always try to, in my closing statement, speaking past my panelists and to their audiences, their respective audiences, and to my audience, is that if you are questioning, if you are into kink, if you poly, if you are questioning your cishet normativity, I am cishet-ish, but I say that I'm down to party. If people ask me my preference, I'm like, listen. People ask me my preference, and I say, well, I'm in a committed relationship with, mostly vanilla relationship with a woman, but I like that boy do be looking cute over there though. I think I'm like, yeah, we'd hit it. Let's fucking go. All right, get a couple drinks in me, basically, is what I say my sexual preference is. So, I just want you to know that you're not alone. Especially even if you are isolated, you're still not alone. The one good thing to come from the internet is you can find a more concentrated community for whatever you are looking for. Reach out to people. Reach out to me if you need to. Reach out to Kat. You're not alone, and it's okay to explore that. You feel a lot of pressure coming from maybe your religious upbringing, or coming from your familial upbringing, coming from parental units, things like that. It's okay to deviate, basically, is the one thing I want to tell people. If we are talking about being genderqueer, if we're talking about getting into things like Black kink or Black polyamory or Black swinger culture and things like that, and this shouldn't be a new topic, because as everyone likes to remind people, Pride movement came from Stonewall. Stonewall was started by a Black trans woman. Okay, Black queer people were the biggest radicals of the Pride movement. They were there at every fucking major milestone. So the queer people in the Black community have always been the ones carrying that standard for social progress across all fronts. and we need to continue to carry that onward. Aside from that, thank you everybody for listening to me rant. I've kind of taken the back burner as well, because I know that if given the opportunity, I was raised to fill any empty space with my voice, so I will keep going and not stopping. And I work in management, so I'm also used to kind of just shutting people down and speaking over them. So I try to curtail that a little bit. I do need to part ways, however. Fluffy, that's the name, right? Yeah, Fluff. Thank you for moderating. You're an excellent moderator. KataraNaStrmz, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. I really do appreciate it. I am. If you ever need participants for any kind of live thing or scripted, if you need music, if you need voiceover, if you need like recording voiceover for your scripts or anything, let me know. That goes to anybody else here in the panel. If you ever need electronic music for your backgrounds, I am part of an artist collective. We make electronic music available to content creators across the web. What'd you say?
So can we link and build?
Yeah. You whatever you want, just hit me up. I collab with anybody, anytime. So, and I see your 3D printers. We have to talk about that at some point. Endless.
I would love to.
And I will close with this. I got a question from my chat. Is that a riff on the Maryland flag behind you?
So it is the Baltimore County flag. Everybody asks about the flag. It's the Baltimore County flag. The story behind it is really cool because it kind of is a riff on the American flag a little bit. The history of the Maryland flag, the history of the Maryland flag is that the crosses were very similar to they had some roots in Confederacy or white supremacy, something like that. I'm not sure what the exact story is behind that, but essentially Baltimore County did not have a flag. They commissioned this contest to see which high schooler would come up with the best flag, and they would all vote on it, ratify it, or whatever. So this high school kid came up with this flag, and the people hated it. This was in the 70s, so they were like, it's too communist, it's too pinko scum, all that stuff. So this was going on for some years. Nobody wanted it until the mayor finally stepped in and was like, you know what? You guys are being dicks to these high school kids. Guess what? We're ratifying the flag. And that is the official flag of Baltimore County now.
Excellent. Yeah. I love that. That answered all the questions. Last thing I'll leave you with is everybody, arm the left, arm Black America. I'm very pro-gun. If you don't own a gun, get one. And
let's talk about 3D printers later.
We will talk about 3D printers. You find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. All right, bye everybody.
I fucks with this guy. Hard.
Oh, rock on. Wait till you find his content.
Too EndlessCemetery.
Well,
one thing. Find his content.
Yeah, because I do want to have a conversation with you about Black kink, because later and some other time, because I think that's so important, because sexual liberation is the gender revolution that we're really looking for, and that's a conversation I think you have a lot of info about. So
I can come too. I'm very.
We should do another thing.
That has to be there as well.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's plan for that.
All right, future sexy chat. Maybe I'll host a panel on it. All right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Fluff, take it away.
Wait, let's go. Ellen, go ahead and do your closing.
Right. Yeah, just closing. I think we covered a lot of stuff about how just racial, interracial dating, gender, and queerness are all interconnected, and I think a really important thing to stress is that there are the material conditions set those things, and those things don't create the material conditions, because when you start to think about it the other way, it creates a lot of essentialist views that I think are really unhelpful for the left. My last things for I am currently live streaming playing Dying Light 2 because they have an anarchist faction, and yes. I'm just kind of critiquing it as I go through it. And beyond that,
which system are you playing on? Sorry,
I'm playing on PC.
PC. Okay.
Okay, and I beyond that, I shitpost. I work in infosec, so I have a lot of opinions about cryptography and just how hacking and stuff like that. So if you guys want to follow my Twitter and see that kind of material, let me know. All right, peace out. I got stuff to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dope. I fucks with every new person you introduce me to, Kat.
Yes, all the people that have been on these panels have been fucking lit as
Yeah,
fuck.
I mean, yeah, I don't invite Hoteps or Jordan Peterson fans, so it ends up bringing pretty decent people.
It's either people that I know are dope, like Sharky last time and Kara this time, or like other people that I don't know but are equally dope, like everyone here.
Well, speaking of dope, Endless, would you like to do your closing statement?
Pretty much whatever Carr said. Exactly what he said. And as far as my plugs, I'm EndlessCemetery. I'm also a Black anarchist. I do a lot of gaming content, like variety streamer. I'm also doing Dying Light 2 and working with the anarchist faction. So that's why I got my interest was piqued there. But aside from that, I also do a lot of like history and a little bit of theory, but more of a focused on history, like what with Carr was talking about with Stonewall and how Black queerness has really been at the center of revolutionary action in this country. Really just in general, honestly. But if I had one wish, like one solid solemn wish, aside from like the fantasy that everyone has about like all the gang members in America deciding that they're going to work together to like move against the cops or whatever, like the Warriors type shit, like I just want every Black person, especially Black men or like people codified as men, like I want every Black person to go to therapy. That would be fucking awesome. But yeah, there's
can
not
dig it.
really there's not really a whole lot else. I wanted to kind of talk about like cuz I figured it was going to get the conversation was going to get dominated by Black masculinity. So I kind of wanted to talk about like toxic masculinity, not in so much as like the idea that no one cares about Black men, but the idea that Black men carry that no one cares about them. I don't know if that makes sense.
That does.
But yeah, basically Black people are all queer as gay as fuck and to act like they aren't as European shit. So yeah.
Also, are you gonna keep on streaming after this, or are you done for tonight?
I'm probably gonna go for a little while. What time is it? 11? Yeah, I might go for another hour or so.
Okay, cool. I just want to know who can I raid when I'm done. Cool.
Oh, really? Thank you.
No problem.
I don't know what I'm gonna do now though. I have to figure out what I'm gonna do.
No matter what you do, people will be happy.
We can I think I'm gonna watch I was gonna read some stuff from Medical Apartheid because yeah, I don't know. I think I'll talk about Eddie Conway some more, who's an activist here in Baltimore. So if you guys are interested in learning about Eddie Conway, Baltimore is one of the founding Black Panthers here in Baltimore City, or Baltimore, not here at Baltimore City. I'm not in Baltimore City, but he was one of Baltimore's founding Black Panthers, and his story with founding the Black Panthers. I'm probably going to do that.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so then now it's you, Aston. What you got?
Yo, so I'm gonna I'm gonna do a funnel. I'm gonna get like big, and then we're gonna get down. All right. So we've been talking about interracial dating, and what I want to say, kind of in closing, is how things affect each other and how systems and material conditions do things to our individual lives. So what I mean by that is, long story short, the idea of race mixing and race being an issue is a white and that drowning in white hierarchy brings us to the fact that white men would oftentimes fear or act scared of us taking their women, especially because of stereotypes generated about animalistic characteristics of Black men, right? That fear of us taking their women turned into a fear of Black men hurting women, which then in itself turns into the reason why, and this is what I was talking about when I talk about large things that affect small things. After, I think this was, it might have been after a dance, it might not have been, it might have just been a regular night at high school. I was with the girl that I would actually be with for the next 4 years of my life at that time, right? And we were just doing what kids do. We pulled off, we found somewhere dark, we pulled off, and we were going to fuck. Doesn't matter what state of undress. We weren't even undressed. Long story short, didn't last very long because the cop pulled up, right? And the cop pulled the girl out of the car, took her to the side as if I couldn't hear him asking constantly and continuously if she was okay and if she was safe. And even with her pleading, and it took her tears for him to stop considering the fact that I may be putting her in a harmful or dangerous situation. And that motivation comes from the white supremacy and the material conditions that I have just laid out. So when we talk about, when you sit down and you say, why do you guys make everything about race? Why do you guys make everything political? It's because it affects our individual lives. It affects my day to day. I wish my life wasn't political. I wish I could date somebody and it not be political. But unfortunately, it's fucking not. There's the world I wish I lived in and the world I do. And that's what Marx used to talk about. And that's why I would like to join your ranks. I am now officially a black anarchist. You were in my coming out party, guys.
Hey, let's go. Let's go.
Let's go.
Oh, it's my favorite coming out party I've ever seen.
I also wanted to say that too, because I feel like that was important to say that Carr said that I wanted to iterate really, really importantly. My chat and like my community has always been and will continue to be a safe space for anyone questioning their gender, their sexuality, if you're into polyamory or non-monogamous relationships, questioning politics, any of the societal structures that you exist in. It's going to be non-threatening and definitely chill vibes. Even if I disagree or my chat disagrees, it's not going to be any type of debate bro shit where we're trying to dunk on people. It's always a very charming and learning environment in my chat.
And that comes back down to the thing that we keep coming back to, which is anarchist. And I believe this, I'm saying this right. I have no strong command on theory, so please don't hate me. But we want to destroy hierarchy. And that's what it comes down to. We're not going to recreate the structures of old. That's where my whole, like, I don't want to take on the weaknesses of my oppressors bit comes from. If we recreate those structures, we're doomed to recreate the behaviors that existed inside of them. And what existed inside of them before was oppression. So that's why all of these different things, even though we talk about, black liberation, we talk about LGBTQ liberation, we talk about gender revolution, all these things, it's all the same fight. The same fight they were talking about 400 years ago, the same fight that we'll be talking about 500 years from now. It's all the same fight, and don't let them tell you anything different.
I'm sorry, but if you haven't prayed to at least everything Lenin and Mao pissed on, you haven't done enough theory.
You're right. I need to
The
go.
fact that there was black theorists who were active and writing during the time of Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin who said the same exact shit. So,
gas. There's activists other than there's actual based activists and anarchists that you could study other than genocidal people.
It's almost like we have this weird thing in science called repeatability, and different people keep coming down to noticing the same patterns over and over again. Really weird. Really interesting.
So,
Well, I love you all. Kat, give your
yes, I should
outro.
give mine. Excuse you. Hello. Thank you everyone for coming today. It was nice to be able to talk about some of these things. I think it's still obviously you can never get down to the base of everything within 2 hours, 2 hours and a half, whatever. But I think something I generally think about a lot is toxic masculinity within the black culture, just because the fact that I've had debates with people about whether or not black men are allowed to wear nail polish is so fucking stupid. It's just our gender roles are so rigid, and I think it causes a lot of issues because for people that are outside of those gender roles, they're basically forced to a lot of times go outwards because they know that I don't feel like digging and figuring out the core of everybody is like to see whether or not they are like a transphobe or like think that I belong in the kitchen, and I don't want to wait 5 months to figure out that, when I know that like majority of like other people of other groups might be a bit more flexible. And I think just generally like the idea of like what it means to be a man is just so rigid within our community, and like it's really great to see that there is deconstruction happening, but there's still like a lot that needs to be done. I had a conversation with my parents and I told them I was going to be hosting a panel about gender roles. And my mom said that, like, there are no gender roles. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, the only gender role there is that women, like, give birth. And I was like, that's okay, fuck. And I was like, okay, there's just so much, like, that has to be done here. But my cousin that was, like, 10 years older, that was also sitting with us, like, knew at least what I was talking about and was able to argue on my side. So at least I could see like within 20 to 30-year-olds there's like more understanding, but when I'm talking to 50-year-olds it's something else. So I think like coming from being raised by people that like live in with such like rigid boxes makes it really hard for people that don't conform to it to like get their flexibility. And I just wish that eventually we can get some of the flexibility that like yeah, that is starting to become more accepted within other societies. So woohoo. The next panel I'm going to be hosting is going to be in 6 days from now. It's going to be about the non homogeneity of Black culture, because people always say Black culture, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because like African American culture and Caribbean American culture and Africans that live in American culture, it's not the same. So I am excited to have a panel about Black culture and the fact that like we're gonna start splitting off. Maybe we'll argue a little bit more. Who knows? About like what it means for certain things, such as like when people talk about crime within the Black community and like how that doesn't apply to all of us, etc., etc. So yeah, if anyone would like to be on, please just let me know. Anyone that's in the
Yes,
audience, if
please.
you want to be on, let me know, etc. And yeah, thank you so much everybody for coming.